Are you muted?
Whoops. I was introducing our first astrologer who's speaking today. People will kind of wade in and out, but I wanted to introduce wade in and out, but I wanted to introduce I'll go ahead and mute myself. Damascena, let me
Love, I think you need to mute both of you're signed in and this one's not muted. The one with the dolphins. I think this one needs to be muted. So you're not having that same effect. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. Go ahead and maybe start with telling us a little bit about yourself and where the— Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. Go ahead and maybe start with telling us a little bit about yourself and where the— Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. Go ahead and maybe start with telling us a little bit about yourself and—
Do you have your test microphone screen open?
Yeah, I think the YouTube might be open on the computer that you're using to do the live stream, and you're hearing the YouTube playing in the background.
Well, that's a good thought.
So what I would use the other tablet with the dolphins on it and leave the computer to run YouTube.
Hi, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, and it doesn't sound like we're getting any of that feedback now.
Hi, can you hear me now? Wonderful. Let me go far away from where I was. I'm not sure what the technological difficulties are. But do you mind kind of starting us off?
Sure.
With,
are
with
you
telling us a little bit about
recording?
yourself and so forth, and we'll fix it from here.
Yep. Yeah. I just did you hit record? I'm asking because I think you signed out of the other one.
We're double checking on the recording right now. I left the meeting.
There, it's muted.
Okay, I left the meeting, but it's still recording on YouTube. But I'll double check that it's recording on YouTube. We're just double checking this recording on YouTube. Okay. Okay.
I know how to fix the noise.
Okay, got it. So anyway,
Excellent.
do you want to help with that or
It's
not?
like the last day of Mercury retrograde, so you'd have this stuff, right?
What do you mean help?
No, I totally get it. My concern though was that it wasn't recording.
Yeah.
All I did was hit mute.
Yeah, no, it's pretty normal.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm gonna go to YouTube right now and see if it's playing. So that way I can check on that.
There's still a lot of background stuff.
Yeah, it could be that the dog just shook his
Oh,
bells.
okay, there we go.
Yeah. Let me go and check on YouTube to make sure it's still going. Yep, Sean just checked. It's going on YouTube. Under live right now is Mercury in retrograde. I see it. So Mercury in retrograde, one person's watching right now. Okay, so we are recording.
Excellent. So my name is Damascena Tanis. I am an archetypal astrologer. I live in Lakewood, Ohio. And Lenora asked me if I would come and speak. And so where I am in the world, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. So it's very late. So she kindly told me I could go first, which I really appreciate. All she told me is that we're going to talk about Mercury retrograde, which of course is a fascinating and fun subject. I don't know anyone's astrological background, so I thought we might just sort of start with the basics and understand who Mercury is and what Mercury rules. I think as the first person going, that just might be helpful to know. So Mercury is the first planet from the sun, and he's a quick little guy who rotates the sun every 88 days. His cycle happens 3 times a year. So we have 3 Mercury retrogrades a year, and they all happen in the same element every year. So Mercury has what we call an elemental year. And this year he happened to make all of his retrogrades in Earth sign. So what does he rule? Essentially, he rules Gemini and Virgo, but he's also our planet of expression, our everyday expression, the things that we do every day from a 3D perspective, like getting up, getting dressed, brushing our teeth. These are all Mercury related skills, like our mundane 3D life. His action is to take things apart and put them back together again. So he's very skilled in things like logistics or making background structures of businesses work. He rules things like the post office, like sending a piece of mail and getting it from one place to another. All of the very mundane stuff like we talked about. Somebody with a strong Mercury might be like a city planner who plots out where streetlights are and how to make traffic go. He's decidedly unemotional, Mercury is. He's mental, he's mind, like the Hermetics say, all is mind. Mercury is very concerned with the intellect, how we think, ideas. In Gemini, he tends to really love getting into the multiplicity of things, being interested in duality, the black, the white. He's very curious. We tend to meet people's Mercuries first. So when we meet a person, the first question that we ask that person is, hi, I'm Damascena. What do you do? And then I introduced my Mercury stuff. I'm an astrologer. This is what I do. This is where I live. I list off my resume. Mercury is a list maker. So our first connections with most people tend to be through Mercury or emailing. You know, you introduce yourself through an email, and that is a very Mercury ruled genre. He rules how we communicate. So depending on where he'd be in our chart, like somebody with a Mercury in Libra, they might be very attuned inside of their communication. They may seek connection inside of their communication, balance and harmony, versus somebody with a Sagittarius Mercury might be very expressive and loud and come across like very confident. So he'll show us what our communication style is based on where he is in our chart. Well, like I said at the top, he goes retrograde once during his cycle. He has 3 cycles a year. And when he starts a new cycle, he's retrograde. So he goes retrograde for about 3 weeks. We had Mercury begin this most recent retrograde on December 14th at 8 degrees Capricorn. So he was in that earth sign like he has been all year. Um, and then he's moving back during this retrograde into Sagittarius. He moves all the way back to 22 degrees Sagittarius. And Capricorn is a sign, it's interesting. You know how we all do New Year's resolutions? A resolution in and of itself is a Capricornian task. Like that, the word resolute is Capricornian. The reason we all start off the year thinking about what we want to build, how we want to succeed, what are our goals? These are all things that Capricorn is related to: success, legacy, legacy building projects. Is also related to hierarchies, in that the energy of Capricorn is power that coalesces around a central pole or a project that is all in service to one thing. And then he's gone back into now Sagittarius. And so he will have had a different energy up at the top of his retrograde cycle. So you may have been putting your plans together for the new year or even for the holiday and felt like the plans got a little wonky. And then the second half of this Mercury retrograde might have felt much different. We say that when Mercury goes retrograde, everyone's scared of that, right? And it makes sense because, as we talked about, he rules all of the mundane parts of our lives, all of the things that make our life work. His archetype is a trickster, right? So I always think about this time as the reminder that we're not in as much control as we think we are, right? It's that reminder that really nothing's in our control. I had one Mercury retrograde where my internet went out and I was lost. I was beside myself. And I got that kind of like cosmic kiss of like, oh yeah, you really don't have as much control as you think you do. And it's so interesting to get discombobulated inside of our lives and meet ourselves in that space of being sort of lost or having things not work the way that we thought they were. We meet a different side of ourselves in that. The Mercury retrograde, though, I think that in and of itself is such a gift to, Mercury retrograde rules all of those RE things like the review, the re-edit, the re-going over. This is a common thing that you'll hear astrologers say. And for me, I think it's a little deeper than just reviewing stuff. It kind of is like he pulls the rug of our lives, all of the things that make our life work, out from underneath us, and it gives us a chance to look at things from a different perspective. And that's always what the archetype of the trickster does. The archetype of the trickster is the person who comes in kind of sideways to break up ossifications inside of systems, places where things have become rigid or potentially the gears need to be oiled in a different way or spun in a different direction. So my advice for people when they're in a Mercury retrograde is to always really go with the flow and notice what's going on behind the scenes. Mercury is what we call a personal planet. We've got Mercury, Venus, Mars, and of course the Earth, Sun and Moon. These are all personal planets, and they talk to us about things that we really have a modicum of participation with. Once you start getting out to the outer planets, they become more transpersonal and they work on us in different planes of existence, we can say. But when we're being acted on by a personal planet, it's like we're being called into relationship with them. And we can do this kind of dance with them. And we can talk to them like there are personal guides. And so if you do find yourself in a Mercury retrograde moment, instead of writing it off as like, oh, it's just Mercury retrograde, it can be an invitation to look at like, wait, did this happen for a reason? Is there some reason I should slow down? Is there a reason I'm being stopped here? Is there a reason that this isn't working? Do I need to spend more time? Do I need to look to Saturn and put some more foundations in? Depending on what's going on in your chart. It can be a really mystical time. The last thing I want to say about Mercury retrograde is that there are lots of astrologers that like to manifest with Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde is wonderful if you want to start a new project, like in your business, or you're thinking about beginning a Substack newsletter, or you just want to implement something new in your life that Mercury rules. A great time to do that is actually during the Mercury cycle. During Mercury retrograde, the first half of his retrograde, he is not conjunct the sun. Then he's going to make what we call a cazimi, conjunction to the sun. And so before he makes that conjunction in the retrograde, he's kind of tying up the previous Mercury cycle. So that may be like you tying up loose ends from the last 88-day kind of seeding and manifestation project that you had. And then once Mercury goes cazimi, which means he makes that conjunction to the sun, in those few days after, I always say to do it after, it makes the conjunction to the sun. And then in the few days after, you can really work with Mercury to help you manifest your new project. Like, I know it sounds weird. People think I'm strange. I bought a car in Mercury's new cycle because there was a bunch of stuff that I wanted to implement in and around doing that. A lot of people say don't sign contracts and don't buy stuff. If you know how to work with Mercury and you've got other planets that are supporting your choices, it can be a really good time to actually make some choices, so long as the cazimi has passed. So that's what I wanted to say about Mercury retrograde, just to get us started. I feel like I covered a lot of the pertinent points and hopefully laid a good foundation for other people to flesh out and expand on. Was that good, Lenore? Do you guys have any questions? I don't know if you're doing that.
Yeah, no, I think people can dive in with questions. Feel free if anyone has questions to put them in the chat or raise your hand. So I've just been so impressed by your work and how you got into astrology. It seems like you're just very gifted, and that I feel like it's a heavy responsibility at times to kind of see the stars, and that we kind of put down these like people in history that study the stars. But I feel like we're coming to a new age of a new awakening. And now this new year that is coming ahead, it for me feels like it has so many auspicious like moments that Mercury in retrograde may bring further turmoil in the world, but also like great revelations or uprooting or, tearing down to make better. And I also am struck by the fact that it seems to me like people who were born during a Mercury in retrograde period, that for myself as a Virgo, I've always felt like they benefit, and I've been like bitter because I feel like because I'm ruled by the planet Mercury, I kind of have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder just because I feel like it affects those of us who are ruled by mercurial planets more, and that is upsetting at times perhaps. But I do now, I think, try to see it more as like you're climbing a mountain in life, and then you get to a point, and Mercury in retrograde feels like the resting point where you have to rest for a moment, and you look back and you're like, oh shit, I forgot some stuff. But then you go back during the Mercury in retrograde period and you feel like, oh, why am I going back? But when you go back to your last camp, you find like a friend or someone that you didn't even know was alive, or connect with someone from your past, like something strange happens. So it is a setback, but it feels like it was like meant to be or fortuitous. But it's interesting to me where the culture of resentment began, if that was like a pop culture phenomenon. I have a friend who runs the Seattle Psychedelic Society, and he has a strong belief that we create a fear around Mercury in retrograde, and because energy is real, that we actually create more of a kind of upsetting experience with it culturally due to collective energy. So those are just my thoughts with what you just shared.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to mention and didn't, was that if we take that idea that many astrologers have, that like if planets are moving in forward motion, right, then the energy is directed outwards, and when they're retrograde, then the energy is directed inwards. Mercury is the throat of the gods. This is the messenger of the gods, the psychopomps. Hermes was the one who could travel between worlds. And so if we're thinking about Mercury retrograde from that perspective, then it becomes a more internal time, technically, right? Because the planet's moving backwards. And then we've got Mercury um, potentially bringing through messages, acting as the psychopomp, being the messenger of the gods. And so if you're inclined to be internal during a Mercury retrograde, the amount of like, I don't know who believes in channeling or things like downloads, but that idea of getting inspired gnosis during a Mercury retrograde, for me, that works. And as astrologers, we say, do what works. And so instead of framing Mercury retrograde as a fear period, it can be framed as like a message period. I mean, from the most distilled perspective, Mercury is the messenger. And so if we're open to listening, in my cosmology, he rules the throat chakra, but there's something to do with speaking and listening, like they are a co-creative thing. So if you can begin to listen to the internal stuff, or even ask when a project gets sticky and you're inclined to be like, oh, Mercury retrograde's messing with me. Asking what the deeper message here is can really shift things in a profound and accurate way for the better. I mean, it's like he can really help us tweak and edit things that become refined through that process of working with him. So I don't know if that helps anybody, but for me, I don't have any fear around Mercury in retrograde. I really like it. It's very creative time, I think. And it's a time for me to see how little control I actually have. And I think that that's a very humbling and important part of being human. We are in a call and response relationship with the cosmos. We don't have as much control as we think we do. A lot of it's an illusion, and Mercury retrograde lets us see that, like we have the control that we think we have. But when something like our internet goes out and we can't do all of the things that we do during the day, it's like, oh, wait, actually, that isn't in my control. That's in the company's control, or, a weather pattern can move through and knock that out. And then who am I, So I love him for the initiations he brings us to. Yeah.
Yes, welcome. To the new individual who just joined us, we have been hearing the wonderful words of pronounce your name correctly, Damascus.
Damascena.
Damascena.
Yes.
And Damascena, can you put your website and how people can contact you in the chat, but also like mention it because we are recording, so that if people hear the live stream, or if they hear the video later, if they can reach out to you.
Sure. So I'm at www.redmoonrevival. Red moons are eclipses, and I really love doing shadow work. And so my website's named Red Moon Revival, as a revival of eclipse energy, .org. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram under my name, and I love to connect with people there. I've got a pretty good community going, and it's fun to be in all the astrological conversations online. It's not fun to do astrology if you're not sharing it with people, right? No.
Yeah, I was curious about like themes of feminism and like plant medicine or revolution, that you just more and more, I feel like witches are coming out of the closet, and like that beyond this just like cosmopolitan like astrology, but like people really saying, what does it mean to believe in this, like a religion or a philosophy that can coexist with other religions?
Yeah, well, and it always has been. Astrology, I mean, the Bible is an astrotheological document. The fact that they took that out, I think, has a lot to do with Rome and not so much to do with um, the mages that lived during the time of Christ. So it absolutely can coincide with religions, and it is a profound inquiry to be in. And my advice for anybody who's interested in astrology is that inquiry is the best way to approach it. Just ask yourself, like, what does it feel like when there's a new moon inside of me? Be an inquiry about what that's like for you. It might be different for other people. What does it feel like when my moon opposes Saturn in the sky? Feel the energetics of that. It's different. It can feel like gravity, or it can feel limiting or heavy, or like you're sitting in the cusp of a boundary. What does it feel like when Jupiter hits my moon? Well, this day I feel like following my bliss, like Campbell said. And so having an like orientation to astrology that is an open inquiry versus needing to know anything with certainty will make your practice both enjoyable, but it will also make it feel like it's connected to spirit, like you're listening to somebody who will give you the answers.
Do any of our new participants want to ask a question or give some general feedback about Mercury in retrograde to the conversation?
I just want to say something. My name is Ben. I'm 47. I've, you know, I guess been cruising through life in the last year. I've really just tried to be present and really understand astrology and retrograde, Mercury retrograde. And I'm here tonight, and I just really appreciate you sharing. I definitely got some clarity, and I'm just looking forward to what else you guys have to share. And I just appreciate it. So thank you.
Oh, thanks, Ben. Yeah, Mercury's a great planet to be in relationship with, and understanding the mythology of Mercury, Hermes, Thoth, all of them. There's like three that we sort of look to as astrologers. Just immersing yourself in their mythology a little bit will help you know them as multifaceted, multidimensional people. Astrology can feel a little bit flat without the myth and the archetype piece. And so it might be great fun for you to just get to know their stories and see how they live through you. Because we all have them. Archetypes are they're multivalent, yes, but we all have archetypal complexes that are very similar to each other. And so finding out how he lives and is animated through you might be a really fun way for you to get to know him better. He's a lot of fun. He's a
I
trickster.
agree.
Fun.
I agree completely. That's why I'm here tonight, is to really just understand, the information and the messages and what to do with them. And so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
I was trying to ask a question about, but is it Eros? I don't know. The female dissident or the complainer, the kvetcher. Do you know who I'm talking about as far as that archetype? She asks questions, the inquisitor, is it Eros or Cirrus or
I'm not sure who you're talking
okay.
about.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just spacing on
Inquisitor.
yeah, I'm spacing on that archetype's name. But just it was more back to the feminine energy of inquisition, of inquiring and asking questions, and what we've typically been told is the bitch, but like is maybe this energy of like, well, hey, why are we doing it this way? That is a good question. Like, you can't tell me to go back and cook cookies in the kitchen.
Yeah, I'd say that sounds to me like Black Moon Lilith, that energy. I mean, she was the one when they told her to lay under Adam, who was like, why do I have to do that? And then she exiled herself. She left and lived on the edge of the wilderness and was cursed by God as the mother of demons. And then we find her archetype, all throughout the witch burnings, all throughout the Magdalene laundries, and still to this day, you know, the outcast woman, but the woman who was willing to be outcast to be sovereign. Yeah. I mean, that's who that sounds like, but there's many archetypes that are similar. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's one with the name that you're talking about who carries a similar template. They get taken from civilization to civilization to civilization, and they have these kind of like evolutions. So is Eris one of them that you're thinking of?
That's who I'm thinking of.
That's who you're thinking of? Yeah, Eris is very she's a dark goddess. She's the goddess of chaos and discord. She's kind of very similar to Pluto, and she's been in a square to Pluto for the last several years. So all of 2020, 2021, 2022, they've been in this, what feels to me like a targeted demolition process. And we can see that in the outpicturing of the world. She's very related to like divine retribution. So you'd see her almost as like a Kali-like figure, a Ereshkigal. I think Eris and Ereshkigal are the same archetype. A Sekhmet, you know, like where there's this divine rage, this divine anger at what is unjust. And so it's not just rage for the sake of being pissed, it's being pissed at injustice. So we would say that Libra rules Eris because of the justice piece, but she has a very dark and kind of like edgy, almost can be violent, can be very destructive energy. Yeah. She's a great one. She's great fun to look at.
But is she coming out of the Jupiter square, or whatever it is, the Saturn square, or whatever you mentioned, or do you know?
The Pluto, no, she moves about 85 years. It takes her about 85 years to make it through a sign. She's one of the slowest moving. She's out by Pluto. They wanted to name her Persephone at first because she spends half her cycle very close to Pluto and then the other half far away. So it seemed like a nice name for her, but they ended up calling her Eris. And this square will separate because Pluto's finally going to move into Aquarius on the 21st of January. So they'll move because Pluto moved on, not because Eris went anywhere. She sticks around. She's moved like 10 degrees in my lifetime.
So that get ready to rock and roll as far as like Aquarius, like we're ready to have some fun. Like with the you don't have to go into the Pluto stuff, but it just seems like Pluto and Aquarius seems like we're in for some revolutionary times.
It's going to be a revolutionary time, and we're going to see a lot of like collective uprising, I would imagine. But Pluto moving through there, what he's going to do is show us the shadow of Aquarius. And so we're going to see the ugly sides. And my best advice is like Aquarius is sort of that archetype of the perfected man with higher consciousness, or the bionic human. You know, what we want to do while he's moving through is really stay connected to like what's organic, what's actually human. I have a great practice I give my students and have them look at like synthetic art versus beauty, and so we do this glamour magic versus real beauty kind of practice. And you know, real beauty being something like a flower growing from a crack in a sidewalk, or the grimace on a mother's face when she's giving birth, versus those like airbrushed ad campaigns that are perfected, but they have an agenda. And so I have thought, like, what would be the most important skill a person would need to have with us moving into this Aquarian age? And I think it is the capacity to know what's real and to be connected to something true versus all of the synthetic agenda-based stuff we're confronted with a million times a day. And so, you know, doing that practice with yourself, like just appreciating real, organic, natural beauty will help you stay connected to your humanity, your real, organic humanity.
But you're saying
I have
the dark side of Aquarius is humanity's ugliness or something. So
No,
we have to
I think
confront
it's
that.
like the unhindered, untested progress.
I
Aquarius
hear
is
you.
is all about
Oh, I hear you.
progress,
I hear
technology.
you. The
Yeah,
ramifications of progress and zooming ahead. Oh, that's deep, man.
yeah.
Whoa, that sounds like AI taking over.
Well,
Sorry.
we'll see what the shadow of that is. I actually think it's a huge benefit that Pluto's going to spend 20 years moving through here. I mean, he moved through that sign of Capricorn, which rules governments. And I don't think there's anybody who's not very familiar now with the fact that governments are corrupt, which isn't something I don't even think I would have considered before 2008 when he moved in there. I think I thought we were for the most part on the up and up, and I was a proud American, you know. So we get to learn. Pluto's a revealer, you know. He reveals the ugly, brings up the toxic and the gross, like the pus and the pimple, you know. It's like he pops it, shows us what's on the inside. It's not a very pleasant thought, but it's essentially his action when he's working on a collective level and we're looking at a collective chart. That's what we'll see.
We have a question in the chat. Persephone, Sean, she was talking about Persephone being a very good name for Eris
Yeah,
because
but
she.
who is they? When she said when they were naming her,
Oh,
who does they refer
sure.
to?
Mm. So when a planet is found, it goes through a naming process with the astronomers. And Eris just happens to have a very interesting, she was found, I believe, in 2005, out by Pluto. And the reason she wasn't found sooner is because she spends so much of her cycle really far out and like beyond what our telescopes were able to see. Anyhow, so they find her. They initially named her. She had two other names, Leela, like the Sanskrit word, and Xena, and they finally ended on Eris. And then this is the collective they, astrologers. Astrologers say that once a planet is named, we see that archetype start to materialize in the collective zeitgeist. Like when Pluto was discovered in the 40s, that's when we got depth psychology, when we got nuclear weapons, when we saw the Second World War and all that plutonic stuff. So it's like each time a planet is discovered, we'll see their archetype. And I think that it's very true that we have seen this kind of explosion of women wanting to reclaim the dark essence of who they are. That's been a very exiled archetype for centuries, like where it wasn't safe to claim that part of who we are. And so since 2004, 2005, you've seen a whole like reclamation of that in a way that's being more broadly accepted. Um, Yeah, so they are astronomers, and you could look it up. It's not hard to find, like her naming story. It's always interesting when a planet is named.
Yeah,
Like
I was just
process.
curious if you think about it, like the whole process. Now that you mentioned that, it just it just opens up another rabbit hole. But the idea of naming planets by astronomers and astrologers, theoretically, it goes back to long before we had intercontinental travel, right?
Mhm.
People were
Yeah.
looking at the sky, wanting to name things. Maybe some people in Asia, maybe some people in what's now the USA, South America, Africa, etc. Right?
Hmm.
And just how they collectively came on deciding on these names. You know what I mean? It's just interesting,
Yeah,
something
and
to think about. There's a lot to it.
that's that inquiry piece I was telling you about. Like you can really go to some super deep places if you hold those as just like I often say like put it like a pebble in your shoe, but that's not really the best metaphor. But if you just hold that inquiry, it can take you in the most interesting places. Um, and you have the most profound insights that way. It's like it opens a door to revelation, and it's like self-revelation. It's like you don't even necessarily need to look that up, and then you'll happen upon the answer if you just hold the inquiry, or you'll happen upon some really profound answers for yourself if you just hold that inquiry. But it is all of the naming stuff is super interesting. Thank you, Sean. That
Yeah, no, that's
I,
it.
I love those profound questions. I'm a Scorpio, so that like matches how my mind works.
So I don't know that if you, I know it's late for you.
It
If
is.
you,
Do you
yeah.
want me to say something about this? So the stories that I'm talking about are old. The planet being named is a new phenomenon because it was just discovered, but Eris is the sister of Mars, or Eris, in the Greek pantheon, and I believe that she is an emanation of Ereshkigal, so that would have been back during the Sumerian era. So archetypes are are images. They're like preloaded images that our psyche comes with, and it's constellated in a specific way, and we can get a map of how it's constellated by looking at the birth chart. But they're preloaded. They're these primordial, they have energy to them, stories or images that are widely collectively known and accepted. That's why you find the same myths, kind of like Sean was talking about before there was intercontinental travel. How were there similar myths in places that shouldn't have been able to talk to each other? Well, it has to do with the way that our psyches are built, and the fact that these images are universal, and that we have, all of us, collective access to the unconscious and the archetypal realm of reality. So, like I said, it's a really interesting inquiry to go on. But Eris is not a new myth. She's an older one. She's the one with the golden apple, and she was the person who began the fall of Troy.
Wow, that's a heavy responsibility or curse, however you look at it.
That's that destruction, that part of her that's, yeah.
No, I feel like I learn a lot from that archetype. So anything you're looking forward to in the next year as you finally get to go to sleep and wake up to a new day and fresh start?
Gosh, that feels like such a heavy question to ask a Scorpio with a Capricorn rising. No, I feel this year is very close to home. Mercury happens to be I'm in a Mercury perfection year. And so, like we talked about, him being kind of responsible for a lot of our 3D day-to-day kind of stuff. It feels like a year of kind of getting back to basics, and doing some home front restructuring, and staying focused on what's going on here at home. And that feels really good to me. I've been building a business and all that for years, and like putting myself out there. So having some time to just be focused on domestic matters yeah, that feels good. Yeah. So no major goals this year. I want to be happy. We've been through so much darkness. I know you and I talked about it on the messenger. Like the last few years have been so kind of heavy and dark. There's a lot of kind of nice planetary stuff that's going to happen for 2024. And it feels like the mood is going to be lifted a bit this year, even though the out picturing is very chaotic and destructive right now, like with the war in the Middle East, that feels very heavy. I think the actual energy will begin to lift. And I actually think there may be a resolution to that issue at some point during this year, like a positive, maybe actual move. Yeah.
Wonderful. I'm always impressed by your writings. I find them so profound. And so if you have time to go and retrieve them all to put them into a book, you know, I think it'd be great to collect your writings.
Thank you. They're all on my website right now. Everybody can, I take everything I write from Facebook and move it over to the website just so I have it.
Yeah, no, I just think you're a prophetic thinker, and I think it'd be great to get the word out about everything you write. Kasri hopped back on, and she's an astrologer as well, probably not doing it professionally to the degree that you are, anything to my knowledge, but I just wanted to invite her back to the conversation and also let her know that you're in a different time zone, so you have to leave soon. But Kasri, do you have any last questions, maybe, or any
Um, yeah,
thought?
you guys can hear me, right?
Yep.
I can hear
With
you.
Mercury, yeah, yeah, I don't. It's funny, I don't know. I keep hesitating to call myself an astrologer, but I've studied for a long time, so I don't do readings and charge people because I know what a real reading is, and that's not what I do for people. But yeah, I guess I could just make the comment and observation that this retrograde cycle has really hit me hard because it's um opposing my moon, and which exactly squares my Mars, so it's making a T square
Mm.
with that on the one end, and then it pulls, let's see, when it's in goes to 8 Capricorn, then it opposes my sun. And yeah, so it's been a fun cycle, and I guess it's probably going to go on beyond tomorrow. But yeah, especially when it gets, it's pretty much stationary now. And
Yeah.
it's hard to find the words or think clearly or any of the things.
Yeah,
But
that
yeah,
does sound like with Mars squaring. I mean, Mars and Mercury can be nice. I mean, it can be like, especially on at this part of his cycle as it's just beginning, it can help you put action behind, um, behind whatever it is that you'd like to implement for the cycle. Even if it is a square, it may feel challenging, but it's still an asset. It could be
yeah.
seen as an asset. Yeah. But with
Well,
the
too,
moon,
since
it makes it feel more personal.
yeah, well, and since I have that Moon square Mars natally, I feel like it's definitely uh not an energy I enjoy, but I live with it.
Yeah.
I have thought that Mars must be, because I've been very active uh in a lot of ways, and having a little bit of hard time sleeping, really just because I'm so kind of overextended, but not really. I'm just, yeah, I guess I'm really rocking the Mars energy, which my Mars is in Virgo, so it's not a very, you know, uh, active Mars in a sense. I just get fired up about details.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Good. It was nice to meet you. I am gonna hop off, Lenora. It's 2 o'clock in the morning here.
Yep.
I thank you so much for inviting me, and I look forward to continuing. Maybe you guys find me on Facebook and we'll keep the conversation going. I'd love
Right
that.
on.
All
Yeah,
right.
thank you so much. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
love. Thank you, Sean.
Okay.
All right,
Have,
bye.
Thank you
have
very
a good
much. That was
Yeah, you're
awesome.
welcome.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
So, yeah, thank you so much. So our next astrologer is coming on at 1 a.m. Sorry, at 11 a.m. at 11 p.m. And so we can just chit chat and maybe get to know the folks that are on the call right now. And then I do have a PowerPoint to share, but that's maybe after the other astrologer, but we're going till 1. So invite your friends. Does anyone want to kind of share a story or something? Because we have 9 minutes until the next astrologer. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead, Sean.
Oh yeah, I just I hope to learn more about astrology and learn how to use it. I think it's another tool, kind of like everything else, like spirituality or plant medicine or anything you do. But it's definitely a path I would like to look into and learn more about.
Um, Kasri, Sean is from Portland as well. And then Benjamin, do you mind sharing where you're from? No pressure, you don't have to.
Yeah, sure. I'm from Eastern Washington.
Right on. That's where we're living now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, nice to meet you. We're living in Colfax.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I know where Colfax is. I'm down by Walla Walla.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, does anyone else want to share some thoughts about Mercury in retrograde? Like, what do you know about Mercury in retrograde?
Um, Not much for me. It's a season of change, just a season of what being present. Um, I don't know. That's why I'm here, you guys. I've
No,
had a
no, no, no. That's totally fine. I have a whole PowerPoint, but I just wanted to kind of check in. That's all.
yeah, I've had a ton of brain fog, just like getting words out. It's like I stumble and I don't know what it is, but yeah, I apologize.
Yeah, well, that's my experience of it, and like I said, I think, and I missed unfortunately most of our presentation, but I think it's partly how it's hitting my chart, but it's maybe also the signs that it's in or something. Because yeah, I'm a pretty eloquent speaker most of the time, and I am just stumbling and bumping and not finding words, and actually I had some of the most bizarre like tech communication things that happened recently where I have copy and pasted text from like, over here to over there. And more than once, it transposed a couple of letters. You got a paragraph, and I look and I'm like, you know, TEH, it took the H and the E and just transposed it. I'm like, that's not even possible, but I'm just going to fix it. And all I can say is that feels like Mercury retrograde and Mercury retrograde and stationary, because of course from our point of view, it's slowing down. It's not actually slowing down, but we're seeing it slow down to a stop and then go the other direction. And it's just like, it's a good time to review and relax and reconsider and all the rewords, um, and not a great time for being able to communicate or be understood. Like almost anything I've said or heard somebody else say does not land, the way the speaker meant it. Pretty bizarre.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I think at this time, I always kind of have trouble with communication and just my delivery, like even just looking for words to say through, simple communication. Even like this environment here, it's just harder to find words and stuff. And I think Benjamin described it kind of like a brain fog he's felt, and that's what I felt too. And then as soon as we come out of it, I'll feel some more clarity and be able to um, move about as normal, I guess, if that's normal. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's
But I feel like awareness of it is growing. So what that means is that like in the future there will be like days off from school, or it'll be like it'll be more allowed that it's kind of like an excuse, or there's like more understanding perhaps.
Yeah, it definitely feels like I know my own personal path. I'm much more focused on being present and focusing on what I want and ignoring. I'm not following politics at all. I don't watch the news. I'm aware that there's uh, a war going on, and that's horrendous and tragic, and I'm very sorry about that. And yet, I'm not able to quote do anything about it right now. So I'm just choosing to do my own self-care and mental health. Um, but yeah,
One,
I put in. Go ahead.
I was just gonna. I agree with you 100%. That's how I'm living my life. I cannot watch the news. My brain is full. I just have to be present on what I'm doing every day. So thanks for the share.
Yeah, and I was going to point out I put my information in the chat. Uh, I have a website which is sort of the anchor point for me where all the things go from. I need to, unfortunately, I guess, get back onto Facebook. I have not done Facebook really at all for a long time, and you can't really run a modern
Which
business
is
and
sort of the
not be
anchor
on there.
point for me where all the things go from.
Oh, there we go. um, so yeah, if you go to my website, there's a link to. I have a, and so I guess especially for Sean, we do some in-person stuff, and a lot of it's online. The Hecate's Network is astrology and consciousness and all things alternative. Something called SPTV, which is Progressive Person Television. I hope nobody on here is an active Scientologist, because it's kind of the anti-Scientology movement. And
Oh, I love
yeah,
that. I've been watching all sorts of just different things about Scientology, just going down that yeah, yeah, it's wild about Miscavige and his wife missing and all those things, and no one's asking any questions of like where she's at, or and just some of the heinous stuff they've done as far as like ex-members basically just suing them into non-existence to where they can't do anything, and this guy was a lawyer and they just attacked him, and it's yeah, pretty wild.
yeah, there's some wild stuff going on, and the latest is there's a guy who used to what's he called? I guess he calls himself Streets LA, and he used to focus on live streaming the police and Scientology. I don't know what happened. I think he was live streaming the police outside of a Scientology location in LA, and they came out and started giving him shit, and they poked the wrong person, because he is now out there every day, and there's a little group of people that live stream and stop the foot traffic from going in. Hey, that's a cult, you don't want to go in there. And so they're
Yeah,
not making any money, and like, and the cool thing is too, the guy who's doing it is he started in, I want to say, September. He's got over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube since September, and so he's making, I don't know, 10 or $20,000 a month by streaming and, preventing people from joining Scientology. So yeah, that's one of many things that's going on in that realm.
yeah.
On a side note, anybody been to a pagan festival?
No, I haven't.
All right.
Have
I,
you?
Have you? Tell us about it.
I have
Yeah.
not, no, but I've been considering going, just to kind of
So,
embrace
but
it.
tell us about the pagan festival.
Well, but
Well,
he hasn't gone yet, right?
I haven't gone yet. There was one in December in Spokane, and I was just considering going just to kind of embrace the culture, see what it's like. I was just curious if anybody's been. That's it.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I've been to the Oregon Country Fair is basically a pagan festival without being called a pagan festival. Um, uh, I was gonna say something and it went out of my head. Um, Darn it, Mercury. Oh, I didn't get quite enough sleep, and I I've been on a lot of streams already today. I was gonna roll into this at like 11:30. I'm like, I can't roll in that late. I
No,
do need to.
it's totally fine. Uma is supposed to join at 11, and the thing is, I don't want to start on my thing, but I can start it and then just stop it. So why don't I go ahead and start it, and then I'll stop it when she comes on.
Cool.
Hold on one second. So I need the host to let me share content. Sean, can you change in share content? Can you allow other participants to share?
So
Oh, never
I don't.
mind. I
I
think
shouldn't
it's
have
Or
to do that.
yeah, I think it's working now.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see here. Um, let's hope this works. Okay, can you everyone see this?
yes.
Right on. So these are my observations about Mercury in retrograde. But please tell me, Sean, if Uma hops on, and then we can switch off. So it happens 3 to 4 times a year. It involves a shadow period, which is when the energy is building up and it recedes on the other side of the Mercury in retrograde period. Effects can include miscommunication, faulty starts, longer waits, and broken or not working technology. Mercury is the planet of communication. Avoid signing on the dotted line. That's kind of like our general understanding. That's maybe the more typical, I would say, description. When I think about it, I think about people don't mean what they say and don't say what they mean. So it's just something to kind of generally guide us so that we're not so that we're just remembering that, something easy to remember. Here are some helpful suggestions that I came up with, which is that I think about like what is the gift of Mercury, and I feel like the gift is like this ultimate like bodhisattva, like Buddhist, like non-attachment, like Zen, like profound way of existence where we can love things, we can be merciful, we can be caring. It's not like we're uncaring, it's not like we're not affected by things, but that we are accepting that, that everything, dies, or that non-attachment is, kind of like a balance in life. Some general ideas are leave extra time for travel, plan for unexpected events, but you don't want to turn into like a control freak about it. Another thing I want to caution people about in general is don't be absorbed in Mercury in retrograde to the point where you are letting it really affect you so that you're not, living your life. The astrologer that spoke before me, she talked about learning how to work with it, and that she bought a car during Mercury in retrograde. So in general, try to have low expectations. Like if someone says they're going to do something, or you have some big event planned, I don't know, something might happen, something might come up. Just know that going into it. And then a lot of times, like old wounds are coming up, old issues, or people from the past will pop up. They'll pop up in our dreams, And so for me, I don't really see it as a time that really sticks. Like things that happen during this period don't always stick. A lot of times they just fall away. But if you can see it as like the dream time, when we go into dream time, we see people, we visit people. It may not stick, but some remnant of it lasts, and it still is part of the magic, right, of life. And I said up here, how do we not get upset if someone lets us down? A lot of times during Mercury in retrograde, I'll be very upset with some expectation I have and someone letting me down. And so before I go into that period, I remind myself of that thing that can really kind of fuck with me if I get too attached to something. Okay. Mercury in retrograde in the fire signs all this coming year. This year it's been Earth, but all this coming year it's going to be Aries, and then you get the Leo, which is another fire sign, and you get Sagittarius, and you see these dates, right? So things like technology, travel, and communication go a little haywire. Like the grid could go down, you know what I mean? The grid for the United States, because there's so many other like Plutonian aspects for next year. And everyone knows that Mercury in retrograde is about reassessing, reviewing, reworking what isn't functioning. What I said earlier is that it's like climbing a mountain, and you get to a certain point and you look back and you're like, fuck, I left that like hammer down there. I have to go back to my base camp and get it. And you're mad at yourself, but then you go back to your base camp and you discover something that is important that you needed to discover, or someone that you needed to meet, or something, someone maybe from your past. So my friend Sebastian that runs Seattle Psychedelic Society, it's like 6,000 people. He has this something, the thing got cut off, but it said Sebastian's theory. And he asked, like, do we give it power by investing in it? In that basically the idea that people are giving so much power to Mercury in retrograde that it's growing as like a spiritual phenomenon. And he basically questions like whether we contribute, So Pluto is going into Aquarius next year, where it's going to spend like a 20-year cycle or something. Think about all those fiery retrogrades in the fire signs next year. Pluto in Aquarius, like this hasn't happened in this way with these kinds of planets since like the French Revolution and the American Revolution. So what does it mean to have revolution? So Capricorn, as you see, is going to be really illuminated during this time. And that means global financial systems. So like banks could fail, political institutions, and we might have to see the dark side of like corruption or people zooming ahead, like the previous astrologer said, without looking at consequences. So things like AI going haywire, something happening. And so if you recall, Pluto did dip into Aquarius in March 23rd to June 11th of 2023. And that was when a lot of discussion was happening about AI. So, and as you can see, this is a period that with Pluto passing through Aquarius, that hasn't happened since the French and American revolutions, which in my mind means like people are going to be rolling out the guillotines for the Kardashians and the Paris Hiltons of the world. Like people are kind of done with like opulence and just like glorifying other people's wealth. Like that's a way to live. And so they're ready for change. So Mercury in retrograde periods are a period when technology, travel, communication can go haywire. So let's see, we already talked about this actually. And so Mars is going to go retrograde in Leo and Cancer on December 6th, 2024 through February 23rd, 2025. So that's, something to be thinking about. You could just see like social movements, people, Mars is action, Leo and Cancer is about like emotion and feeling and sentiment and like patriotism. There's also a first eclipse in Pisces on September 17th, 2024. So again, it's themes of change, it feels like change is really in the air, and it's like spiritual change. So this is the last slide that I wanted to talk about but I went to an event at Washington State University, and it was like 150 people, and they were exploring haunted objects that came with associated spirits or had things attached to them. So I wanted to just kind of talk about my general theory and where it all coalesces. So we see in our culture a growing interest in witch stuff, astrology, magic, like more and more witch groups are forming. There were 150 people at this event just to talk about haunted objects. There's also 13,000 women in the Washington State Women Witches group, which is just one example of like, wow, that's a lot of women. I mean, a lot of witches that are, getting excited about being witches. And so I think as a culture, we're moving beyond like just basic astrology being of interest. People are really starting to learn about that. And then if we look at shamanic and indigenous cultures, they utilized magic. They wouldn't necessarily have called it that, but magic and alchemy were also studied, within Western institutions. At one point, they were up there with kind of scientific inquiry, up there with math and science. So Isaac Newton himself was obsessed with alchemy and gematria. And we know that astrology was appreciated by Jung, but now we're kind of, I think, coming to a more universal or feminine perspective, which is not just Jung can justify astrology, but like women or men, witches, people that are into paganism, people that are into magic. We see them as less ostracized, and we see their wisdom being brought to the stage. And I see astrology used more and more. There's actually a banking institution that does like investing based upon astrology. It's just kind of going more mainstream, and I see it as something that is conducive with other religions and other belief systems. So that's, I think, the last slide, which is share your stories. How has Mercury in retrograde been a blessing to understand or receive gifts from? And I guess I could share my story first, and then encourage others to join. But basically, I think I used to live in fear of Mercury and retrograde, and I got to a point where it wasn't helpful for me, and I felt like I had to sit down with it and kind of make peace with it and kind of come to understand it as like an entity, like a force or a cosmic storm within like the astrological like forecast. Like I kind of feel like astrology is like the weather. And so you look out the window and you're like, okay, this is the energy that's in the air today. And because I'm ruled by Mercury, I feel like I go through a very sloggy period when Mercury and retrograde comes around. Like I feel very muddled, and I feel kind of confused, and and I don't know if that's psychosomatic. I'm open to my friends that are like, well, that's like you convincing yourself of that. But now I feel like I enjoy the trickster energy of it a little bit more. Like I think we are here to also know what it feels like to not have control, and we are here to also know what it feels like to learn from misunderstandings. So we need to have those misunderstandings, and that trickster kind of enjoys having us have misunderstandings because maybe it wants to tease us or test us to see how do we handle misunderstandings. And there's a part of me that fears Mercury in retrograde, so I avoid all communication. And then I am not getting stuff done, and communication is not happening that needs to happen. And then I go through periods where I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna communicate. But I think if you can do it with a sense of humor, and so I feel like ultimately what it's here to teach us is like a sense of humor. And I see a lot of people that are very serious in the work that I do, and the people that I see leading in the work that I do, I just see a lot of seriousness. And I feel like the times we're in, that humor has almost like a spiritual role to play in like revolution, if you will. And our next speaker's here. Okay, I just finished up Umo. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hello.
Hello. I just finished up. I just gave a presentation, but we were just waiting for you. So thank you for joining. So actually the stage is yours to talk about whatever you want to talk about Mercury in retrograde or the year ahead or Pluto
Okay.
or wherever you're
Yeah.
at. Welcome.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. I'm excited to share. Hello, everybody. I'm Uma Luna. So I'm an astrologer plus a bunch of other things, but we're going to focus on astrology today. So Mercury in retrograde, I have a special affinity for. I have a strong Mercury energy in my chart, and I actually think it's a really beautiful, special time. Yes, there's the drama and the setbacks and the communication snafus, but I say that it has backwards magic. So I'm also the queen of the reverse engineer. So I love to, because we're always like focus forward, right? And we're like, what do I need to do next? What's next? Go, go, go. And Mercury retrograde actually helps to remind us to slow down and to go back and bring forward what's already working, to bring forward the work that we've already done so that we can harvest and profit and evolve from the work that we've already done. So that's kind of how I look at Mercury retrograde. So this Mercury retrograde, I think, was a pretty nice one. And it's going to depend how it affects you. Obviously, it's going to depend on what's in your chart, what it's hitting, if you were born with retrogrades or not, what's going on in your life. Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? The more you're off track, the harder that shit's going to hit you. Ask me how I know. Right? So also, if you are born with the Mercury retrograde in your chart, then it's going to also be smoother and easier, and the magic is going to be amplified for you, right? So this year we had all our retrogrades were in earth energy. Okay, so that was Virgo, Taurus, and we're ending with Capricorn. Well, it's gone back into Sagittarius, but it started in Capricorn, right? So it's in the Capricorn is the ruling energy of this Mercury retrograde. So what that tells us is that this year was really the Mercury retrogrades were giving us the opportunity to upgrade our physical well-being, our health, and our wealth, right? So those so this could have possibly been a very expansive year in those areas or not, right? Either way, if we go back and we look at these Mercury retrograde periods and we look at what was happening in our life, and if we look at the major occurrences, and specifically you want to look at the ingress and the egress, right? So the time like now is when the Mercury retrograde energy is the most powerful, the most potent, and the easiest to see, right? It's also when the mishaps happen the most, right? So if you go back and look at those dates in your life, you can start to pull these threads and weave through what were the lessons around health, wealth, money, physical well-being, that you can pull those threads into 2024, right? So this earth energy is giving us the opportunity to build foundation. It's showing us, the Mercury retrograde is showing us, where's the foundation weak? Where is it off, right? So now in 2024, it's going to be the Mercury retrogrades are going to be in fire, right? So, and then we're moving into a very strong earth energy. I'll talk about that. I'm sorry, air energy. I'll talk about that a little bit. So we want to pull this anchoring and foundation with us into 2024. Okay. I don't know exactly all what you've talked about before, so I might say a few things that are repeating, but that's okay because that's also in the vibe of the repeat, right? And we actually usually need to hear things multiple times for it to
actually, if you don't mind me interjecting for one moment, there was an earlier moment in the talk where I forget, but people got off topic and started talking about their lives or something. And I just, for me in that moment, I really appreciated it because it felt like that what they were talking about, like it related to Mercury in retrograde.
Mhm.
So I just feel like wherever you want to take it, like if you want to go personal, if you want to talk about, how it affects you, or how, what scares you, or what, just anything you want to talk about, because we're just so grateful that you're here. Thank you.
Thank you, love.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I feel like this was 2023 was like sort of a groundbreaking year, and it was shifting us out of like kind of the pandemic slump energy, and it was kind of breaking the ground for the new. And then 2024 is going to be benchmark year, where everything's kind of start to change a lot more drastically, right? And that's why it's going to be so important for us to have our foundation solid as shit starts to get a little bit intense, right? Not that it hasn't been intense already, but it's going to get more intense, Now, it's not, I don't necessarily think it's going to be like, I don't know exactly how the year's going to go. I do think it's going to be some craziness. It's going to be some wildness. It's going to be some type of shit show, right? But that's not going to be the whole year. And even if the collective is falling apart, we can still prosper as the individual and then the communities, right? So, and I personally believe that the transits, even if they're hard, even if they're challenging, they're always working in our benefit, and there's always the opportunity to have something good from it, you know, even if it doesn't feel good. So I'll give you example. I'll say this one thing about where to look in your life. So like I said, I don't know if this has been shared before, because I know you had another astrologer speaking earlier, but so you want to look at the house in your chart where the degrees are hitting, right? So where's my phone? Did I bring my phone? Okay, I should have looked this up, but I don't know off the top of my head what degrees this retrograde is in. But I'm just going to make up some degrees to give you an example. Oh, you know?
Yeah, it started at was 22 Sag to 8 Capricorn.
Okay, perfect. So 22 Sag to 8 degrees of Capricorn. So you're going to look at what house that falls in your chart. Okay. And then that's going to show you the area of your life that Mercury retrograde is highlighting, pulling your focus to, and telling you to clean up. Okay. So for me, mine was falling in the 11th and the 12th house. So 11th house is about your networks, it's about your communities, it's about kind of you out in the world, the people that you play with, right? That sort of thing. The 11th house is a lot of things, but that's like the main energy of 11th house. 11th house is actually, to me, one of the most like complicated houses because it has so many different meanings. But to me, that's the main focus of the 11th house. 11th house is also related to your earnings and your money because it follows after the 10th house of work and career, right? So, so for me, this Mercury retrograde was pulling me out of communities, business communities that are like no longer in alignment for me, and just really showing me like, these are not my fucking people. This is not where I'm supposed to be, and helping me cut those strings and stop showing up there out of some sort of weird obligation or whatever, right? Even though I didn't really want to. So that's one way that it showed up for me. And then we go to the 12th house. And 12th house 12th house is a little bit of it's a little bit of a scary house, because the 12th house is the house of things that are unknown, unseen, the things that we can't, it's illusion, fantasy, right? So on the lower level, it's addiction and deception and lies and all that kind of energy. On the higher level, it's like deepest spiritual union with God and highest spiritual expression and all of that, right? Also the highest spiritual expression of love. But it is also the house of self-sabotage and self-undoing. So for me, that was showing up of like, how I was sabotaging myself. And that became very clear. And like your bad habits, right? Or your what's your vices, your addictions, like all that kind of stuff, right? So some stuff that came up for me is like around like food, and because like I'm not like addicted to drugs or anything like that, but like unhealthy relationship with food, like that was highlighted of me being sick, and it being highlighted that is a partial cause of me being sick, right? It's like highlighting it in my face in case you weren't sure what the problem was, Another thing is like, I'm kind of a messy person. I have ADD, and it's very easy for me to like be very like in my head and in the spiritual realms, and not be like paying attention too much to my like physical environment, And so my house was just like totally out of control. And I like met this new guy, but I was like, you cannot come to my house. It's like such a disaster. I was like, I barely let my child in here. And so this 12th house was highlighting like, okay, here's where you're like out of control and sabotaging yourself. Because even though I don't like to clean, I do thrive in a clean, orderly environment. That does make it easier for me to work. It helps me concentrate and makes it easier for me to tune in spiritually, right? All these things. So that was highlighted. And also 12th house is ruled by Pisces. Pisces is the most emotional sign. So it's been helping me get in touch with my vulnerabilities. Like that's something I like feel so embarrassed about. And it's like, oh God, like I don't want people to know that I'm messy, and I try and pretend that I'm not like that, And like I was cleaning, and it was just like, okay, it's too messy. It's gonna take too long. And I told this guy he could come over, and I was like, I'm sorry, you just can't. It's too messy. And he's actually a Pisces, which is hilarious because and he was like, you know what? I'm just gonna help you, and I'm gonna like pay for some people to come and clean your house for you, so you no longer have this excuse. And I was like, oh my god, thank you so much. Like that's like to me totally romantic, and so. And me being vulnerable, right, which is also another thing I'm not always super into doing, especially in the interpersonal relationship area, right? And me being willing to be honest about myself and my flaws, then that's created this opportunity for him to like show up and support me, right? And the people came, and of course there was Mercury retrograde communication. They didn't speak English. I speak a little bit Spanish, but not enough to be clear. And they threw away a bunch of my stuff that I didn't want to be thrown away because it was on the floor. But I was like, you know what? C'est la vie, because they did more in like 3 or 4 hours than I probably could have done in like 3 or 4 days myself, right? And when it's like your own stuff, it's so hard for you to throw it away, and you take forever to decide, do I want to keep this? Do I want to get rid of it? So I just felt like, oh, huge weight off of my shoulders. They literally took out like several trash bags of trash out of my house. Just like random stuff that I have around that's like that I don't need, even if I have in my mind, some of it I do, So that's just a very like, it was just so specific example, right? Of like me cleaning out 12th house energy, So, and as I do that, I'm like, I can think clearer, right? I have this weight of shame about my house off of my shoulders, right? And a lot of times, like those little nagging things that we don't think are that big of a deal, they actually are, and they like pull on our psyche, and they pull our attention and our focus, and it's harder for us to achieve and create and excel and whatever it is that we want to do, So those are some examples. Okay, so do you guys want to talk about anything with yourself, with where your Mercury retrograde is at?
I could share that I'm guessing you're maybe an Aquarius rising, because I'm a Leo rising, and so it's hitting my 5th and 6th house, but it's opposing my moon, which is in Gemini in the 11th, and squaring Mars, because I have a moon square Mars in my chart, when it's in the Sag degrees, and then when it goes into Capricorn, it opposes my sun. So yeah.
Yours is a little intense.
Yeah.
So
and I'm really sensitive to Mercury anyway, because I have a lot of Gemini and Virgo in my chart. Yeah.
Okay, so how have you been feeling?
I think because the Mars is involved, and two, I think Mars might also be near there as well. But I haven't been super physically active, but I haven't been sleeping very much, and I've been very inspired and active on the things that I'm working with the things I'm working on. So yeah.
Awesome. Wait, so you said it's in the 5th house?
It's in yeah, it's because Sag is my 5th house and Capricorn is my 6th.
Okay. You're Virgo rising?
I'm a very, very late Leo rising, and I use whole sign houses. So
okay, yeah. And you guys, there's different systems. There's whole sign, and then there's Placidus. I'm more of a Placidus person. I know a lot of people prefer whole signs. I use whole signs for different stuff, for like more like timing techniques, right? But for just like looking at regular stuff, I use Placidus. Placidus means that you just go by the exact degrees of when you were specifically born. Whole sign is you were born in Aquarius, your whole first house is Aquarius, that's it, right? And then your whole second house is Pisces, right? So whole sign makes it easier to look at, right? So basically it's just preference, whatever you want to do. There's always a fight in the astrological community of which one's better. Personally, I don't believe in that. know, I'm like, it's like the fights in religion. It's like the Baptists against the Protestants. It's like whatever works for you. You know? Okay. So you said it's in your 5th house and your 6th house. Okay. So what I'm just intuitively feeling too is that like 5th house, you're being called into the spotlight. You're being called to stop hiding out and be the star and to be visible and show up and let people know like who you really are, your true gifts, how smart you are, like how knowledgeable, your expertise, right? Because you're like one of those people that kind of maybe hides in the background a little bit.
Yeah, wow. And I don't know if you got that from my sun and Mercury and Venus are in the 12th. So I'm a
Okay,
Leo
no, I
rising, so
didn't
it's sort
get
of
that part.
yeah, Leo rising is sort of, I anticipate, look at me. But yeah, then the sun in the 12th. But yeah, that really speaks to what I've recently I've wanted to have an online presence for a long time, and I was involved with an organization as the events director for a couple of years. And so I got on Zoom and I was doing and giving to this organization, and then it kind of rejected me, and that was the crisis of 2022. And I finally recovered from that, and giving all this energy that I used to give to an organization that was not giving back to me, now giving it to my own business. And yeah, I've decided to live stream on YouTube every day, which yay, other than woo, I don't think I quite realized what I was signing up for, even though it
Yes.
doesn't have to be, a heavily produced kind of thing. But yeah, between having guests and doing different things and then just doing guided meditations and just trying to get on there. Yeah,
It's the
what you just
hard time of the year for that.
yeah, and there you go. Not only Mercury's retrograde, which feels like it's kind of a hard time, and then the holidays. Yeah. So, but we're almost through.
Yes, thank goodness.
Anyway.
Well, I think you're doing great. You're right on target. You know what you're supposed to do, Okay. So other thing, which you described makes perfect sense. So you were doing that in this other people's community, right? Which was good because it was preparing you and getting you ready. But you're not supposed to do someone else's bullshit. You're supposed to be the star of the show. So now you're doing what you're supposed to. So everything worked out. That was what it was supposed to be for. It was supposed to be a prep, and then you're supposed to let it go. They kicked you out because you're the star, and you're not a follower. You're the star. So they can, even if it's like unconscious, they know this isn't right. Right.
Yeah.
So,
and I really quickly noticed, I mean, I was happy that it was a shock to my system because it was my community, and I was really, it kind of had, we were talking about Scientology a little bit earlier. I mean, it had these sort of cult-like overtones. It wasn't exactly a cult, but I once they kicked me out, first, besides it was ridiculous because it was stupid of them because I was doing a huge amount of work. So not going to be doing that anymore. They're lost. But I really quickly realized it was such a the silver lining of like, hey, now I have 20 hours a week that I used to do these other things with that I can, put into my own stuff.
Yes. And then the other message is, in that you're taking on a new thing and you're like, okay, I said I was going to do this every day. So just remember, you don't have to be perfect. If you miss a day, you miss a day. C'est la vie, life goes on, right? And number 2, you just committed to showing up. You didn't commit to showing up for a long time. You didn't commit to showing up perfectly. You didn't commit to showing up prepared. You just committed to showing up. So just give yourself that grace as you're kind of in this messy middle of doing something new,
Yeah. Thank you. That was awesome. I wonder if anybody else, because I'm not an astrologer, but, I play one on TV.
Yeah, you know a lot.
Because I'm not sure if Sean or Benjamin, and I guess Benjamin has just arrived. I don't know if those people know their charts, or 2, if people know their exact birth time, I could pull their chart up
for them.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I don't know, Benjamin or Sean, if you want to chime in. Hi, Benjamin.
Hey, how's it going? Hey,
Good.
thanks for being here tonight. I'm new to astrology.
Okay.
But I was born July 5th, 76. I'm a Cancer.
Oh, nice.
So I don't know if you guys could do a reading for me or tell me anything.
Yeah, well, we can tell you a little something about yourself. Okay.
Okay.
So,
So you said July 5th, 76. Do you know exactly what time?
Yes, I was born at 12:04
oh,
a.m.
good.
8
Yes.
a.m.
Yeah.
And then in what
What city?
location?
I was born in Norwalk, California.
Mm, you're
Yeah.
right by me. Well, you were when you
Okay.
were born. I'm in
Yeah.
Long Beach, California.
Oh,
Oh,
go
yeah, just
Long Beach. Yeah, I know.
give me a couple minutes and I'll pull that up and share it on the big board if it lets me share it.
All right, cool.
um, but yeah, so you don't. So we'll keep it like basic, not too complicated.
Yeah, please, please.
Oh, just we'll just talk about what house Mercury's in coming out of retrograde for you.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah.
Coming out tomorrow, as you guys know.
Yes.
Um, uh, Cancer. So yeah, it's also going to be opposing your sun, maybe. So it might, whenever so oppositions and squares are more like challenging aspects. So sometimes, not always, but usually when you have more challenging aspects, you have a harder time with things. It's not bad, it's just a challenge, right? But we need challenge because that's what makes us grow. If we just are comfortable, and because trines and sextiles are the easy positive, right, aspects, but those give us blessings, but they also make us lazy. So we need the oppositions and the squares to actually motivate us to get up off our ass and do something with our talents.
Okay.
Which you're a perfect example of you were doing that. How do you say him? Kazari? I don't know how you say it, but
That's okay, Kazri. Yeah.
Kazri, that's pretty. So you're a perfect example because you were using that oppositional energy and it motivated you, and you were like, okay, fuck it, I'm doing it, and you started, doing this new thing that's totally in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing. Where do you live now, Benjamin, if you don't mind my asking?
Oh, sure. I'm in Washington State, Eastern Washington.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah, and just the last year of my life has definitely been challenging. I've been doing a lot of shadow work
Good.
and just really just trying to understand myself. I've been in the society cycle of corporate America for many years, and the pandemic really shifted that.
Good.
And so
I was like, that's not for you.
yeah, so so you're kind of forced to really just evaluate who you are and what you're meant to be. And I'm on that journey now, and I've just really just it's been a lot of brain power. So I'm just on that bike, just and I'm pedaling.
Yeah. Okay,
So
you're doing great. Sounds like you're doing great. You're on it.
yeah,
So I have his chart pulled up, but I can't share it. But I could tell you about it, or if
Okay,
okay.
maybe Sean has to give me
just give me
permission.
like few highlights. Like where?
Yeah,
Well, he's an
I'll
Aries
work on
rising.
seeing if I can help you share it.
Okay, yeah, I think under the settings somewhere, which screen share doesn't have settings, or maybe it does on yours. But yeah, he's an
More
Aries.
security. Hold on one second here. Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Okay,
He's
Aries rising. Go ahead.
Aries
Okay, so
rising.
now I'm allowing you to share your screen in settings.
All
I've
right.
switched it, so you should be able to share your screen now.
There we go.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys. This is great.
Okay, cool. All right, so here we have. All right, so Aries rising, Libra moon, Sun in Cancer. Okay. What did you say the degrees of the retrograde were again?
From 22 Sag to 8 Capricorn, so between his
Okay, so
ninth and
you're
10th house.
okay, so yours has been pretty potent there because it's crossing your MC, this line right here. That's a important angle, important point in your chart. That's related to you. Yeah, it's right there. That's related to your career, your work in the world. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Right, right.
Also, the most of us do not get to this work until we're at least 40, sometimes older. So also just know that, right?
Okay.
Um,
I'm 47.
okay. So you're primed to be ready to do it. If you haven't started, you're ready. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's okay if you haven't like got it 100% yet, but you're ready. So so let's see. So his midheaven is in Capricorn, yes?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just because she does her chart slightly different. So I'm like, okay, so Capricorn is okay, so that makes sense why you were in corporate America then. Because corporate Capricorn is the sign that rules corporate America. Okay. But now you're ready to take all the lessons of corporate America and bring them to a different community, to your version, right? So I have a client, she was a corporate person for a long time. She did like pharmaceutical sales or something, some like crazy shit, right? But she's now a life coach. And what she does is she helps like the airy fairy healer artist people like bring structure so they can actually get their work out into the world, right? So that seems like something along those lines might be similar type of thing for you. How does that land for you?
It aligns. I'm definitely a structure person. I do well with process.
Mhm.
So yeah, it aligns to some degree. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, so what do you do for, if you don't mind my asking, what do you do for work now?
I am a farmer. I farm peonies, and
Oh, those
I
are my
yeah.
favorite
Yeah, I sell them to the Portland and Seattle market. I have 5,000 plants and
Oh, beautiful. Well, also, earth signs rule all of that too. Plants and nature, that's all earth sign, and Capricorn's earth. So that also aligns. Okay, go on. Go on.
yeah, so I'm in my 4th year. Um it's mentally, it's a shift, for me. You have to have a lot of patience.
Mhm.
But I'm learning a ton. Financially, I'm used to having a set pace check. I'm used to having
Mhm.
medical. I'm used to having pension,
Yes.
and so I've really had to be patient with that shift and allow
Mhm.
myself to believe in myself.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you that um, I really have to be present and not circle.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
I'm in a deep mental workout
Mhm.
daily right now.
Mhm.
So
Yes. Yes, I can imagine that would be a challenge for you.
yeah, yeah. I'm
Totally
doing
acknowledge.
okay, but it's, I'm just learning how to believe in myself.
Mhm. Okay, good. Yeah, that's all you really need. You just need to be more confident. And you need to also also having some of that similar energy of the Leo, because I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So I'm like, let me see, where's your Saturn in your chart? Your Saturn is in Leo, which is the star sign. And then it's in the 5th house, which is the 5th house, right?
Mm.
So the Leo energy is highlighted also in your work, which means that probably, yes, you keep working on your systems and all of that, but you probably actually need to become more of your personality and more of you in the limelight. And that's actually what will make your business grow.
I understand. I think I understand what you're saying. I have this resistance to social media.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's due to judgment
Mhm.
and just like, being the who I really am, and I'm timid about posting things because I just feel like there's so much scrutiny to everything, I would post, but I need to just take that leap and not worry about judgment or whatever comes with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I would take that, that into your shadow work and work
Mhm.
that, right? And I
Yeah.
totally get it. I have to be on social media for my work, and sometimes it's really hard for me.
Yeah.
It's a challenge. And here's a couple of truths, okay? Nobody's paying that much attention to us. Like there's that saying, you wouldn't worry so much about what people think about you if you knew how little they actually thought about you, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's obsessed with themselves. Everyone's thinking about how they look. I feel like I'm being so extra and so extreme sometimes, and no one responds. Like when I'm pushing myself and I'm like feel so crazy what I'm saying and I'm really being out there, I never have any negative reaction. Usually when I just like randomly say something that I'm just like I don't think is inflammatory at all, it's people like they come with the pitchforks and I'm like, what? This is the thing? I talked about all this crazy shit and you said nothing, and then I said this one little thing and this is what you guys went with, which makes me just realize, don't fucking pay attention to them. Don't let them rule, because they're nonsensical. It's like it doesn't matter.
Well, because what they're reacting about is their own stuff.
Yes.
Like you
Yeah.
said something that's triggering something in themselves, and you can't control that because
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I know easier said than done, but just giving you a little bit from my own personal experience, maybe that can be helpful for you,
Yeah. I understand exactly what you're saying. I think because I come from corporate America, like I do really well in like presentations and meetings, but when it comes to just being me and just flowing with it and just being who I am, I really struggle with it. So I just need to practice, and just like anything else, you'll get better.
Exactly. So. And you also have your sun in the 4th house, which makes you more private, and your Cancer, you're naturally private. I'm a very private person too. And it's hard for me to be like public in my persona. But what I do is I share vulnerably without details. So I'll say something really like deep and I'll be all emotional, but you don't know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, and it gives people the impression that they know everything about my life when they actually know nothing.
Right.
So that's just another little like, social media tip,
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. But also, last thing I want to say, you have your Cancer sun conjunct Venus in the 4th house. So what you're doing also makes sense. So Venus is love. Venus rules flowers. You have that conjunct your sun. So it makes sense. That's where you shine. The sun is where you shine. It's related to your gifts. And then you're in the 4th house. So you make people's homes beautiful. So you're like doing what you're supposed to do.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I don't know if you see, Leo would like us to look at her chart, which I was going to pull up. Take me a minute. I'm just seeing that.
Okay.
Are you here till midnight? And then too, I don't really give a shit about like the countdown or anything. Are we doing a big woo? Because are you on the West Coast too? We're all on the West
Coast. I'm on the West Coast.
It's such an arbitrary point. Like
we can do, I like to pay attention to it. I don't have to but I like to just be like, okay, it's happy.
Cool.
Hey Leo, will you how can we find this video? Because you're recording this, right?
Yeah. So there'll be a YouTube video up within 24 hours. You just go on Entheos Society YouTube under live videos, and Entheo is Enteheo.
Okay.
So yeah, it would just be under videos for our most recent video, but it won't be edited yet. Like it'll just be the raw footage.
All right, no worries.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of good stuff here. I don't know if there's a chance to do Sean first, but I also don't want
to do Sean. Whatever. I don't care. Whatever you guys want to do. Last thing I want to say, Benjamin, too, and I mean, this is for a lot of us if we're in this space of having to promote ourselves, you know, like I said, people aren't paying attention. So it's okay if you do something poorly. If you make a post and it's like ridiculous, or you make a post and no one looks at it, like it doesn't matter. It's like no one's going to remember. So you can mess up, and like the attention span of people online is so small and so short that in like 30 seconds they're going to forget about it.
Yeah, there.
Do you think that attention carries over to the workplace, Uma?
What'd you say?
That attention span, do you think it carries over to the workplace too? Because people are so used to like being like that online.
I definitely think people have shorter attention spans at work, but I do think people will remember a lot more and a lot longer if you mess up.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, New Orleans. That's where my sister lives. One of my favorite cities.
Sean was born. If you've ever been to New Orleans, they have the hospital there that Katrina like demolished.
Oh wow!
And it's on the haunted tour for New Orleans, and Sean was born there. And it's a really creepy hospital.
Wow, I haven't been there. I go to New Orleans a lot because my sister lives there. I usually make a yearly pilgrimage. I did not go this year, so I have to go twice next year.
Yeah, definitely.
But I love New Orleans. It's there's no place like it on the planet. Like it's such an extremely unique signature, you know? It's so special, and it's such a historical anomaly. There's so many magical things about New Orleans, and it's also really intense, and there's a lot of dark energy. You know? It has a weightiness to it. And also like beautiful, and the community is so strong. Like people are so generous and like, I don't know, so big-hearted. So yeah, I think it's a very magical place, and the magic there is really strong on all vibrations.
So we've got Sean up on the big board.
Okay.
I think we got to change the birth city though to New Orleans.
Oh, did I leave? Okay, let's fix that. Which won't make a huge difference. But it'll make yeah, it'll. Let's see. Do I edit that? Add selection. Edit. There we go.
So yeah. Anyways, I love New Orleans.
Yeah. You said you're in Southern California?
Yeah. I'm in Long Beach, which is right outside of LA.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I cannot figure out how with Mercury retrograde to get it to let me. Oh, other town.
Yeah, other town.
Gotta hit the button.
Hey, what's up, honey?
That's better. This may be a Sean.
Okay. All right. Pisces. Okay, you guys have some similar signatures. Aries rising, Capricorn moon. Okay, so this is maybe hitting your moon a little bit. Maybe not exactly, but close enough. Also have a similar midheaven. Very similar midheaven. So okay, so yours is in the same houses as Benjamin, because you guys are both Aries risings.
Interesting.
So similar themes, right? So you may or may not had anything to do with corporate America, but so Capricorn midheaven is your work. So like I said, it can be corporate America, structure, it can be stuff like that, nature, farming, logging, whatever, stuff like that.
It's really structured. I'm an engineer.
Okay, so, engineer, perfect.
I work for the city government, the state. No.
That's perfect. Government is also under the realm of like institutions, big institutions, government, all of that is under the realm of Capricorn. So you're doing what you're supposed to, so that's good. Let's see, where is your Saturn? Saturn's in Scorpio. Okay. In the 8th house. So, you might be involved in something to do with like security or like secret stuff or the government, and you could be into conspiracy theories. This is all energy that has to do with the 8th house in Scorpio.
All right.
So,
Yeah, I'm definitely into conspiracy theories and very interested in those things and reading about it often.
uh-huh.
Well, beyond reading about it, studying it and really like digging into it, you know.
Yeah, you could probably also like make a lot of money in like cybersecurity or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, no.
Because Scorpio in the 8th house is also about things that are hidden underground. It's spy, espionage, like all that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow. That's
you
cool.
know, conspiracy theories, whatever. So you could bring that into your work in some shape or form, and that would probably be very profitable for you.
Right.
That's why I said the cybersecurity, because that kind of, it's not exactly engineering, but there's overlap there, you know?
Definitely. Yeah, there's definitely overlap.
Mhm. So your work is being highlighted, your career is being highlighted. You're in the 0 degree. Okay. So the 0 degree is also very powerful. That's a critical degree. So whenever you have something on the 0 degree in your chart, it's like, woo, right?
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily easy. It can be challenging. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it's highlighted, it's important. So it's when you have the 0 degree, it's like a fullness of the energy. So this is going to be very important in your life. This Capricorn energy is going to be important in your life.
Yeah.
But it's also at the very beginning of Capricorn. So you maybe are learning Capricorn lessons a lot in life also. And
Right.
you're learning how to use and wield the Capricorn energy, because the Capricorn energy is also like the boss, the leader type of Leo's more the leader, but Capricorn is the boss, right? So you have to be comfortable like owning your power and authority, especially with the 8th house Saturn, right? So those are some possible lessons that could be highlighted for you at this time.
Yeah, no, I think that's really like it resonates. I'm kind of in middle management and trying to establish where I'm at and what I'm doing, you know, as far as like that role of being a boss. So,
yeah, so you shouldn't be in middle management. You should be in upper management. But sometimes that's hard when you're in the machine. So you might have to go somewhere else.
that's my goal, is to get into upper management, but it is hard. Like you said, when you're part of the machine, it's like sometimes those jobs seem like they're like reserved for people or they're already filled. So,
Yeah, they are.
and some, you know, I've really been thinking about that a lot lately. So,
Oh, it's 12 o'clock. All right. Woohoo!
Yeah, it's midnight. Woo! It's 2024.
Okay, so we're being highlighted on at the
Happy New Year, guys. Happy New
Happy
Year.
New Year.
Woohoo.
So on the 0 of the energy of the year, what's being highlighted on the 0 degree of 2024 is be the fucking boss. And if they don't let you be the boss, go somewhere else where you can be the fucking boss.
That's awesome.
That's our 0 degree message for 2024.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Let me see. Also, one last thing. Mars here is transiting almost right on your midheaven. So also you're going to have a little extra push, and you're going to have a little less patience for people's nonsense.
Right.
And that's okay.
Right.
And you can use that energy to be more assertive. You know, be careful with, you know, the dragon energy, but sometimes we need a little dragon energy to get people to recognize.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then the ninth house is a little bit in the ninth house. So this is also for Benjamin too. So the ninth house is more of a spiritual house. It's a very beneficial, very positive house, right? So because you guys have the same rising. So,
Right.
so ninth house is higher learning, it's philosophy, it's religion, it's judgment, right? So you have, and then it's in Sagittarius there, which is it's natural thing. Since you guys are Aries risings, you have the benefit of everything. It falls in the natural order because you're the first sign. So everything's kind of extra strong, which is great. So Sagittarius there is calling you guys to calling you up to higher levels of spiritual knowledge, your own authority, with following that inner wisdom, being willing to speak the truth. That's kind of stuff related to the ninth house. Because the Mercury retrogrades on both sides. So that's where it's at now. It's at the ninth house side, but it started in the in the 10th house. So where it starts is more the powerful energy.
Right. Okay. Thank you. That was really cool.
You're welcome. Sure. Okay. So, Leo's asking me to put where you can contact me. So I actually don't have a website right now. I had one I tore it down and I didn't make a new one yet. So Facebook is the best place to connect with me. It's Umwa Luna. There's only one of me, so you can't miss me. So it's UMOH is my first name, LUNA is my last name. So yeah, I pretty much accept all requests of people that as long as they don't seem crazy or anything. So yeah, if you guys want, friend request me and connect with me on Facebook. Fireworks are going off. Can you guys hear that? So loud.
Well, I can hear them where I am. I can't hear them through your.
Okay, good. I'm like, it's so loud. They go crazy in this neighborhood. Okay, do we have Leo? Oh, September. Okay, you're Virgo too. Okay. So let's see. Capricorn ascendant. Okay. So you guys are getting hit by this because it's hitting those angles. So whenever it's hitting the angles, it's more powerful. So the angles are your ascendant, your descendant, the IC and the MC. That's the where the cusp of the first house, the cusp of the fourth house, the cusp of the seventh house, and the cusp of the 10th house. So those are 4 very important points in your chart. So we were talking, those two had it hitting the midheaven. You have it hitting the ascendant. So the ascendant is about the self. It's about you, who you are, right? It's also about your physical body, your identity, how you want to be known in this world. Who are you? How do you want to? What do you want to pursue? How do you want to position yourself? What do you believe? All that stuff is kind of first house energy. So let's see. Yeah. So okay, so here's the ascendant. Show the ascendant. Okay, there. So yeah. I meant on the chart, so they can see around the wheel what I'm talking about, the angles. So the ascendant is here, is that first angle, and then the IC is down here. Yeah, exactly. That's IC, cusp of the 4th house, and then the descendant is cusp of the 7th house. And then the midheaven is cusp of the 10th up here at the top. right?
Usually,
Well,
I should have probably made which house system do you prefer? I can like pull up
it's okay. No, it's fine. It's fine.
because here the
Yeah,
midheaven is technically way over and over here,
that's
which is
true.
kind of unusual.
Okay. Yes, because you're doing whole sign. Usually I do plastics, but whatever, it's fine. We're doing whole sign tonight because that's what's coming through. So that's what we're going to stick with. um, I'm very like, I just kind of, I've not, if I felt like it was important to change it, I would have said in the beginning, but I didn't feel that. So I just go with whatever my intuition says. And a lot of time my intuition says, go with what's already there. Okay. So, first house. So also the sun is also there. Let's see. Yeah, Mars is here. Let me see. So where's your, I'm still looking at Saturn. Saturn's in the 7th house. Okay, Saturn's in the 7th conjunct the moon in Cancer. Okay, so that lets me know you have a very big heart, you take care of people, you're a loving partner. 7th house rules your partnerships, long-term relationships, marriages. And so you have your ruler of your first house, which is the self, in the house of partnership, the 7th. So you may have a conflict between feeling like you are allowed to be yourself and to have a relationship, or you might feel like you might just naturally get pulled to choosing relationships and other people over yourself. So that might be, could be, or not something that might be highlighted. But you have a natural gift there. So you probably are really good at relationship and partnership. You're probably very good at like, because it rules partnership and relationships, but it's also like business partners and stuff. So you're probably very good at creating things with other people, which I think that's true about you, right? And being in partnership and knowing how to move in partnership. But that's probably one of your big gifts. Cancer is a sign of the mother, so you can be like the matriarch. You can be like the one who kind of, the mother is the one that kind of is a lot of times the glue that holds everybody together, right? But you're also looking at your first house, so it's like, well, what is the glue that you need to hold yourself together? So that might be a question that will be highlighted with this Mercury retrograde. Does any of that resonate?
Yeah, I'm nodding quite a bit. Yeah, a lot of that resonates. It's just that I historically, when I pulled up my chart, have my planets in the 8th house. So I'm just like kind of confused.
Because because this is whole house instead of Placidus.
I see. Okay.
So it's going to move it a little bit. But
So,
this is
yeah.
what I think. I look at both, honestly, for my own chart. I look at both.
Okay.
But what I go by more is Placidus, just because that's my preference. A lot of astrologers prefer whole houses. But for myself, I do look at both. So I think it's sometimes nice to get a different view, because I feel like it just gives you like like, I think of it as like a diamond, right? And you just you're looking at different facets of the diamond. You're going to have a different view, but they're all accurate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and so earlier Kasri was speaking about kind of her trauma from her experience of being ousted from this community that she was leading and working in and giving herself to, and I can relate to that story of having like a similar thing happen in my career. And I think a lot of that trauma can be generational, that can be like cyclical, karmic stuff. Like I saw my mother go through very similar things. And I just see women like get burnt out from these positions of giving. So
Mhm.
I'm definitely like trying to lead, but also lead with like, hey, there's this I'm taking this ride, but along on this ride are like these ghouls that are stealing women's power because they're expecting like very unrealistic expectations of women in these positions that have historically been held by men, and just like challenging the status quo to say, well, why do we have these expectations, or why do we have like these expectations of women and men that are not serving them, and that I don't have to like live through that. Like I feel like the women's generation before me, they led by saying they could do it as just like the men. They could be the men. They could wear the shoulder pads. Like they could be the Hillary Clintons. Like, and now I feel like women are saying like, yeah, I want to wear what's comfortable. I don't want to wear a bra. I want to have a bad day. I want to talk about my period. I want to talk about being witchy and into astrology, or just I see ways that women are leading in different ways, but I think also it matters to talk about self-care, so much to talk about self-care, and to talk about like for young girls to learn that like old guys or like certain people like are not going to be their friend. They're not going to help them and support them.
In the
And
cigar, they
so
want something from you.
right, or just like to be conscious of the fact that you're going to be met with a lot of adversity, and the world, like we tell girls that they can do anything they want, but like just I think that we need to respect the challenges that are out there for young women, and explain to each other candidly like, hey, there's like cultural expectations that are unfair, but like let's acknowledge them. So anyway, I feel like the generation of women before me led by pretending that their feet didn't hurt in the high heels. And I want to be the kind of leader who's like, I don't really like these high heels. I'm going to go without shoes. Like I just, my feet hurt. Like
I love it. I
I
love it.
just, I can't wear high heels.
Yes.
So it's hard because I feel like it's a struggle to bring that message out there, because I see a lot of like people pretending to be perfect or pretending to be okay, and keeping their secrets and keeping their sadness to themselves. And I just kind of want to celebrate the idea of like the age of authenticity. Like this is the age we're in, and it's the age to be yourself and to express how you're feeling. And it's okay if you're not feeling okay. And I just really want to celebrate that. But I think it's exhausting to try to send that message out there, because I feel like I'm just surrounded by cancel culture, and people are constantly like, well, this person's a villain or this person's a villain. And I'm like, well, have you met that person? Like, have you spent time with them? Have you spent 24 hours with them? Like, they're just canceled. They're just done. Okay. And it just makes you realize like there's so much harshness and meanness out there in like the general society at large, that I just feel like we need to be kind of like a revolution of like kindness and forgiveness, and talking about our sadness and things like that, because I think people need to heal. And I think astrology can be a really beneficial way to bring wisdoms, like ancient wisdoms, to the future and to the present. And I think it's just a fascinating science. Thank you so much for everything you've done by sharing your voice today. I'm all done with my little spiel.
Okay, well, I love everything you said, and I totally resonate, and I'm 110% with you. And I think all of that is so important, and it makes sense. And this is actually something I'm totally obsessed with, and it's in my chart too. So it makes, so it makes sense what you're saying, because you're talking, because your ruling planet of your chart, which is Saturn, is conjunct the moon in the sign of Cancer. So that's all like women, feminine, emotions, intuition, all that stuff, right? So that makes sense that that's your message, right? And I feel like it's mine too. I so resonate with it so deeply. And I do feel like spirit is calling me to higher responsibility to speak about that more. And I get how you feel, because I'm feeling it too, because it's like every side, like my feminist people will get up in arms if I say certain things, because it seems like I'm being anti this or that, but it's like, no, I'm just saying that, you know, women are actually different. We can't actually do everything men can do. Like, this is a scientific fact. It's a biological fact, right? That we are affected by things and we can't do everything a man can do. But if you say that, certain people are going to get mad, you know? It's like, we have different rhythms, we have different needs, you know, we are more sensitive biologically, physiologically, we are. That's just a fact. But you know, if you say that, some people are going to get up in arms. And then if the other people are going to get offended, if, you know, on the more conservative people, you know, when I say stuff about like the feminine rising and, you know, they have the idea that the feminine should be subservient. And it's like, the feminine can be powerful and lead and do it from a feminine place that isn't masculine, you know? So and to me, a big part of that is going to be incorporating the things that you said. It's going to be incorporating authenticity. It's going to be incorporating the emotional experience. You know, it's going to be incorporating the fact that we have different rhythms and cycles and honoring those, right? So many of these things I think are so important. Even like for me, I incorporate my menstrual cycle into like how I run my business. Like, I don't schedule things when I'm on my cycle, you know, like I just already know, like, I'm not gonna be at my best self, you know, but I do know my intuition is extremely heightened. So I'm going to be paying attention, getting the downloads at that time. And sometimes I get my best business ideas at that time. So, you know, I'm 100% with you. I think it's super important. And it totally makes sense with your chart. Either way you look at it, Placidus or whole sign, right? And as far as the canceling thing, let me see what you said. Women have a more developed area focused on intuition in the brain. Yes, I feel we need to talk about psychic empaths and what a lot of us understand as another sense. Exactly, right? So and having that be honored, because I'm a super intuitive. I'm very psychic. And when I was young, I didn't understand that. That wasn't like something that was embraced or taught or whatever, right? So I had to learn about it kind of the hard way. And I've been called crazy my whole life because I just knew stuff or I felt something, but I didn't have any facts or evidence to back it up, right? Because it wasn't from that logical side of the brain. So that's another thing we need to start learning societally, how to honor intuition and all these, you know, other things. I'm definitely an empath, even though that's another thing. Even to call yourself an empath is now a political thing. But yeah, I think it's super important. I think that it's definitely something to be brought to the conversation. And instead of pretending that, to me, like that men and women are being equal means the same. We can be equal in value, but we are different. And like, by saying we're equal, sometimes we want to that cancel out the fact that we're different, and it's okay that we're different. And that's like something that's sometimes not well received for whatever reason. I don't know why. It's just like with the racial stuff, right? When people want to say, I don't see color, I'm colorblind. I don't want you to tell me that you don't see what color I am. I want you to see me for who I am, and I want you to still be able to appreciate me even if I'm not the same as you, right? I don't need you to pretend that I'm not a different color. I don't want that. So I feel it's the same thing with men and women, that we have to like get out of that idea that equal means that the same. It means equal in value, not there's no differences. Hallelujah. We're talking about periods. Women need to be understanding of cyclical creatures. Absolutely. And it affects so much. It affects so much of our energy, our ability to concentrate, I think, moods, so many things. It's not like a minor thing. I'm very into it. I had a whole journey. My cycle, it comes like clockwork now on the new moon every time. And it was such a humongous life journey for me. I could talk about this all day, but I do think it's really important for us. And even after, you know, we're no longer, you know, menstruating or whatever. It's like knowing about menopause and all this stuff, it's going to affect so much for you, you know? And I also believe that that time is extremely potent and powerful. And I think the crone energy is another thing that we in society kind of like push away, because we think of the crone as the hag or ugly. It's like the crone is the most powerful, you know? And it's like, why do you think witches were who was persecuted the most? Who was the one that was, you know, the ones that were the women who carried this deep wisdom and knowledge, right? So I think we also need to re-embrace the crone, and as women stop trying to run away from that archetype because we have a negative association with it, when it's like the crone is so fucking powerful, you know? So anyways, I can talk about this all day. So anyways, yes, Leo, I'm with you.
And I think I put it in the chat before you got here, but I was just made aware of a class that Rain Crow is doing, a 6-week course that is called The Burning Times Never Ended. And I could put that in the chat if you might be interested. It starts it's on Wednesdays from 6 to 8:30 Pacific time. It's a Zoom, but this coming Wednesday is sort of a gathering, because it's recommended that people sort of do it in small groups. And if you're not already part of a small group, when people come together, they can kind of find their small group.
Okay, cool.
Which is kind of on the topic of what you're just talking about.
Yeah. And also for men, if you learn your woman's cycle, it's going to make your life so much easier. You're gonna be like, oh, okay.
So I actually have a personal spiritual belief around that. Like,
yes.
in terms of like, if you look at Rastafarian culture and Jewish culture, like Orthodox culture, the idea that women are separate during that time and that you're not touching during that time, that it's a private time away. And, you know, I just think that for me, that resonates. And I just like those cultures that honor the woman's celebration of her womanhood, but also like allow her the space to be in a different space than she is normally. Her obligations aren't the same. And that we release her from expectations so she can take care of herself. And then there's like the religious ritual of the mikveh to go and cleanse yourself after the period. And so I just think we really need to like talk more about periods as far as like period culture and ceremony and tradition and that kind of thing, because I think it can be very symbolic for women to say, well, I'm now washing this away, or I'm done and I'm kind of like cleansed from that experience. But it's, you know, it's something that is like going to the bathroom. It's like, it's something so natural to us. It's happening all the time for those reproductive years. And yet it's so shamed and humiliated as if it's something to be embarrassed about. And it's our bodies. And, you know, anyway, thank you for listening.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's super important. And it's like, you know, that stuff is a little bit edgy, because I think we have to find the balance of traditions where it's about making sure that it is about honoring her and not saying like, oh, you're dirty and unclean, so go away. You know what I mean? So just
yes, no, I hear you. Point heard.
But yeah, but I agree that, you know, that there's so much value in the old traditions and ancient ways that we in modern society have, you know, whatever, given up on. Okay, Benjamin, thanks for being with us. Have a good night. Looking forward to flowers everywhere. So we kind of went on that journey. So you guys get it. This is important. All right. Pay attention to your womanness, pay attention to your cycle, pay attention to your biology, your physiology, right? Okay, pay attention to this is an actual verifiable difference between men and women, and don't expect women to be men and don't expect men to be women. Okay, So let's talk just a little bit about the year 2024, what's coming in, right?
Pluto and Aquarius revolution.
Yes. So Pluto, so this is what I was saying earlier, where we're moving into an air energy. Okay. So Jupiter is going to be going out of Earth energy. Also, it's going to be out. Jupiter is going to be going out of Taurus and into Gemini. Okay. And then we have Pluto and Aquarius coming in. Person who just came in, can you mute yourself? Thank you. So we're just talking about 2024. The energy's coming in. So I'm not gonna go super deep, but just gonna touch a few highlights, right? Oh shit. Okay, my computer's dying. Hold on, let me see if I can get the cord in time. Otherwise, I'll be right back.
Classic Mercury retrograde.
Yeah, you have no idea. The beginning of this was a total shit show. So, Kasri, what are you working on now for your stuff that you're working on?
The live streaming every day, which just to further all of the things. It's funny, the last couple times I said it, I skipped the psychedelics piece. I forgot because I've had astrologers on late a couple times, and I have a couple people that I talked to about the consciousness stuff, and psychedelics is the other main piece. But yeah.
That's cool. And is it energy giving, or are you're just trying to figure that out?
I am, yeah, just kind of putting it out there and allowing it to sort of settle into what it's going to be, trying to find a rhythm because every day is a lot. And yeah, one of my astrologer friends is going to do a monthly look at the micro transits, as she calls them. Yeah, so yeah, figuring it all out. Always looking for more guests. So yeah, if you're interested in live streaming about whatever,
Oh, I'd love to. No, I'd love to.
Yeah,
I'd
we
love
could pick
to.
a day.
I don't know what the official invite process is, but I'd love to.
Yeah, well, why don't you? We've been trying to talk to each other. Probably won't do it tonight. I'm gonna hand the focus back. But yeah, go to Hecate.com, 6 simple letters HEKATI.com, and use the e-scheduler to find a time that we can talk, and then we'll talk and get something on the calendar.
Okay, sounds good. I didn't realize that she was back on. Sorry.
Okay, no, you guys were talking, so I was like, let you finish. Okay, so a little bit about 2024. So Jupiter is moving into Gemini, where it's not necessarily well placed. So it's better in Taurus. Taurus is focusing on money. It's gonna change, I think, June, halfway through the year, right? So Taurus is focusing on money, earthly things, so on and so forth. Gemini is going to be bringing a lighter energy, but it can also be not the greatest, okay? Because Jupiter expands everything that it touches, right? Whether it's good or bad, it expands it. So Jupiter is very positive and beneficial, but it also has a shadow side. Every planet, everything has a good and a bad, right? Nothing is 100% one or the other. Even though Jupiter is the great benefic and is the most positive planet, it still has a negative side. And especially when it's not well placed, the negative side is stronger. So Gemini negative side is the two-facedness, it can be lies, slick words type of things, right? So manipulation of media, all that kind of stuff. So those are things that will probably be coming in this year. This is also can be related to, you know, news cycles and stuff like what, you know, what's actually the truth. There's probably going to be a lot of not truth coming once, not that that's not already happening, but once Jupiter goes into Gemini, I feel like that's going to be accelerated. Okay, so don't believe everything you hear or read. You guys already know that, but it's going to be taken up a notch when that happens. So that's the air energy we're moving into. And then the big, humongous, big deal transit is Pluto moving into Aquarius. So we have had Pluto in Capricorn since I think 2008. So it's been you know, however many years, a long time, right? So this energy has been, Pluto is very much about like what's going on, right? And it's a major cycle that's closing out in 2020, and then we're moving in, right? So we had a little preview, a little dip into Pluto in Aquarius earlier this year, and then it's going to go more solidly and be in Aquarius for most of 2024. It's going to be a little dip back. It's going to go retrograde back into Capricorn a little bit, a couple of times, and then there on out, it's going to be in Aquarius for 20 years, right? So to me, I already felt like we're in the age of Aquarius, but Pluto going into Aquarius is solidifying the age of Aquarius is here. We are in it. There's no question about it in my mind. Other people define it differently, right? So there's a lot of big astrological transits I'm not going to talk about coming down the pipeline. There's a lot of intense stuff happening, not now, but in the next few years. This energy is setting us up for this big change, right? So going back, we had the little dip in the beginning of earlier in the year, maybe in the spring, I think, for a couple of months. So that's when, so Pluto is transformation. It rules the underworld, death, destruction, but it's also, it's not all bad, you know. It's also that powerful, deep transformation. It's connected with, you know, the shadow worlds and all that stuff, right? So when Pluto comes, it's like kind of like a wrecking ball. And Pluto comes and cleans everything up, right? And so it was in Capricorn. Like I said, Capricorn is structures, it's the government, it's big business, it's banking institutions, all the big institutions, right? So what happens in 2008? We had like the big crash, right? All these institutions have humongously changed, and we are no longer in the dark, right? Pluto is bringing the dark to light, right? So all the things that when back then we used to just trust the government and we used to think like, oh, companies had our best interest and you could still get a pension, like all these things that we thought were reality, Pluto has shown us this is not real. And Pluto has highlighted all the darkness and corruption, has brought all of that to light. So that's what it's done in the area of Capricorn. Now it's going to do that in the area of Aquarius. So it's going to be good and bad of Aquarius, right? Pluto is not a positive planet. It's not all bad, but it's not considered positive in general, right? But it's heralding this new era of Aquarius. So when we got that little dip in earlier in the year, that's when we started to see AI, Chat GPT, like all this stuff that was like kind of around, but wasn't that big of a deal. It came in, and now it's like everyone's using AI, everyone's using chat. Like just the beginning of the year, nobody was like talking about that at all, right? Before we went into the Aquarius energy, the Pluto Aquarius. So all of that's going to be accelerated. There's no, you're not going to be able to avoid AI. If you don't like AI, you need to go live in a hut somewhere, because AI has infiltrated already every area of our life, and it's only going to accelerate once Pluto goes into Aquarius for good, right? So that energy is here. There's nothing we can do about it. And it's similar for me, like when the internet, like, you know, when the internet became a big thing when I was young. I didn't like the internet. I thought it was bad. I was like, I didn't trust it. I was like, oh, this is going to be the downfall of civilization. Maybe it is. But at the same time, now the internet and allows me to connect with people all over the world. It allows me to do my work on a like really deep, fulfilling level from my living room. You know, it allows me to know everything at the touch of my fingers, right? So I was very distrustful of it. I thought it was terrible. And, you know, all the things that are wrong with it, I saw, right? But I didn't see the good stuff. So that's kind of some of the stuff that I want to just kind of invite you with the AI and all that stuff. Because I mean, I would love to be like, no AI, because I don't like the idea of it. But at the same time, this is AI right now, right? What we're doing is already, AI has already infiltrated the chat. There's nothing we can do. So just figure out how you want to deal with it. It's going to be there, you know. That's going to keep coming in. Like you said, revolution is the main word that's associated with Aquarius. There will be revolution, and it may or may not be televised, but revolution is coming in. There is going to be a battle. You know, I don't like to talk about this stuff too much, but times are changing. All that we've known is falling away. It's going to be a whole new thing. It's not going to be pretty. At a certain point, it's going to be beautiful, but you don't get to a new beginning without an ending. And endings are painful and ugly most of the time, right? So we had to be prepared for that. 2024 is not going to be all bad, but it's going to start bringing that energy in. That's going to be challenging. And it might come in subtly. It might come in like a wrecking ball. I don't know how it's coming, but I know it's coming. So we got to be prepared. So how do we be First of all, we have to take care of ourselves, like Leo was saying. Self-care. We have to keep our cups full so that we are in a good place. Take care of yourself, get checked up, go get a physical or see your witch doctor or whatever you do. Get your bases covered, right? Make sure everything's okay before shit hits the fan. So you're in your best possible position, right? Not saying that for sure anything super terrible is going to happen in 2024, but if it did, I will not be surprised. Okay. So first, get yourself in order. Second of all, going back to the conversation of intuition, get online with your intuition, right? Because sometimes the only difference between who's going to be alive and who's not is going to be who listened to their intuition that day, right? When spirit tells you move, you move. You don't wait. Okay, so we have to keep our channels open and clear so we know what's right for us. What's my answer is not going to be your answer, your answer, your answer, right? So we have to learn that discernment and learn how to tune in with ourselves. And then whatever you want to do, because it's air energy and fire energy is coming in, it's going to be fast. It's going to be easy, right? So you can, whatever you want to create right now, you can do it. But you've got a limited fucking amount of time to get it done, okay? It's going to be a limited amount of time. I'm being very serious right now. We do not have 5 years even, okay? So whatever you want to do it now, okay? So the beginning of 2024 is going to have a lot of abundant energy. Last year, a lot of energy is going to be moving fast. So last year, I said, the beginning of the year is not starting until March. Don't try and start anything in the beginning of the year. It's not going to work. People said, oh, I'm being crazy. I saw multiple people start big projects that either didn't go off the ground, or it went like gangbusters, and then they were like, oh, I don't want this, and shut it down. So this year is the exact opposite. 2024 is starting in January. Gangbusters were going, right? So last year, part of the reason I'm saying that was because of the retrogrades. So all the retrogrades were didn't come out till March. This year, almost everything's going to be out of retrograde as of January 1st, right? So we just had so Jupiter just came out of retrograde, which is wonderful. So Jupiter's coming back, bringing us the full force benefic energy in the sign of Taurus, money, right? Get your money before it goes into Gemini. Not saying you can't make money when it goes into Gemini, but it's going to be a different energy, different quality, and it's not going to be as powerful. Okay. Yes, it absolutely brings the cash. Especially in Taurus, the sign of money, which is why I told people in 2023, get your money. But we still have time until it goes into Gemini. Like I said, you can still make money, but it's going to be way easier earlier than later. Okay. And that's another thing. As things get crazy, you're going to want to stack your cash. You want to have some money if you can. If you can't, you can't. But if you can make your money, now's the time to get over your shit and make your money. Okay. Let's see. So everything's out. So Jupiter just went out of retrograde. Mercury's coming out tomorrow. Chiron just came out. Saturn came out a little while ago. So everything's coming out of retrograde early. The only thing left, I think, is Uranus, which I think is coming out in the beginning of or middle of January. I'm not sure exact dates, but anyways, so the energy is moving fast because of that, because of the air energy and because of the fire. So we're getting called to like kind of jump in, right? However, because the energy is pulling you doesn't mean you have to jump. Okay. So if you're not ready to jump and the energy is pulling, don't just jump into the fray, because you got to have a plan. You have to know what you're doing. You got to be clear. You have to be aligned. Okay. So for myself, also, like I was saying, this Mercury retrograde is in my 12th house. 12th house is also sleep. So I've been sleeping a lot, even though I had big goals for December. None of that came to fruition. Universe was like, bitch, go to sleep. So that's when I was sick. I was in bed. So anyways, my point is I was feeling that energy already. I felt like, go. But that's not for me, right? So you have to be in balance with, what are the transits calling for, and what are the transits calling for you? What's the energy calling for you, right? So I just want to say the energy is only going to get faster. If you don't know what you're doing right now, do not jump. Take this time, get clear, figure out what you want to do, right? Figure out what you want to focus on, figure out what you want to sell, figure out what you want your intentions and your goals to be about first, not from any sort of ego place or this is where I should be, but what's your true heart desire? What is spirit telling you to do? What's in alignment for you? Once you're clear, then jump in the game. Also, make sure your tank is full, right? Because as we get pulled into that fast energy, it's going to be very easy for us to get burnt out and run down. So you want to make sure you're in a good place with yourself so that as you go to this whoosh energy, you can sustain it, right? Which is going back to this women stuff. Like, we aren't built to just go. Like, men are able to do that a lot more. Men can't do it indefinitely either, but they can do it a lot longer than we can, right? So make sure you're right with yourself. So that's kind of my marching orders. And then we're also, like I said earlier, we want to take everything from from all the Mercury retrogrades, but especially this last Mercury retrograde, right? We want to take the energy from this last Mercury retrograde and pull these foundational pieces in, so we have something to launch from as this strong forward moving energy is pulling us in the beginning of 2024, right? So look and see what is Mercury retrograde telling you. What we all talked about, you guys look deeper into it for yourself, Hi, Leslie. Look deeper into it for yourself, right? Of like what the placements and what is this Mercury retrograde telling you? what is she calling you to do, right? She, he, whatever. Mercury is like a trickster, so it could be masculine or feminine, even though it's technically masculine. Okay, let me see if there was anything else I want to say. Social media. So that's the good side of Jupiter and Gemini. So social media will be highlighted. We may have good stuff, we may have bad stuff, but if you're called, like we've talked about, a lot of you get on social media, take it up a notch. Jupiter and Gemini will support that individual level. Who knows what's going to happen of the collective and level? We might have weird stuff with social media, but you can grow quickly with the Jupiter and Gemini energy there. Okay. So I think that's all I'm going to say for now. I'm excited for this year. Let's get those foundational things in place, pace ourselves, and then let's fucking go. Okay. So you said spell my name. Yes. So it's Umwa Luna. It's UMOHLUNA. So like I said, best place to connect with me is on Facebook. There's only one of me, so I'm easy to find. AI and social media, especially in June, the grid may fall. It may absolutely fall. And we talked about that a little bit earlier. I don't want to get too into that, but this entirely a possibility. That's why I said, get yourself in order now, right? First half of the year, we have a little more spaciousness. First 3 months after that, who knows what the fuck is going to happen. But AI is happening now. AI is January because Pluto is going into Aquarius in January. So that energy is already here. It's already strong from when Pluto dipped into Aquarius earlier this year. But once it comes in January, the AI is going to get even more accelerated just in January. And then it's going to get accelerated even more when Jupiter goes into Gemini. But that Pluto is stronger, and because it's that humongous 20-year cycle. Okay. Absolutely. We did talk about that. AI is going to blow up. Exactly. That's happening. It's done. Do you guys have any questions about anything that I shared about the year coming in, or anything I said? Was there anything that didn't make sense or was unclear or anything? No.
I'm not sure if Lovely's on her phone.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for everything.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, we have 11 minutes if we're going to do the full 3 hours. So, Lovely, did you have any thoughts to share about Mercury in retrograde? You know, we're in it now. We're not even in the shadow period.
Lovely's audio says connecting, so yeah. I guess maybe
she's not even hearing me. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if she can hear or not, but she can't speak for sure.
Well, that's like a Mercury in retrograde event right there. What a beautiful kitty.
Absolutely. Ah, yes.
Tashi. Yeah, Tashi might start being on my YouTube. You want to be on YouTube?
I say bring the animals. I'm all about an animal revolution where I found out about this religion I wasn't even aware of. They believe that animals are the reincarnation of humans. Mm-hmm. It's just a really cool religion. It was killed off, but it was like way back when.
That's so interesting.
I know, and I'm spacing on the religion, but it's like an early form of Christianity, but it's almost like Christian paganism. But really, really big on reincarnation. They're very druidic in some ways, just obscure cathars or something like that. I'm not sure.
So I'm fading, but we could end early or we can hang on a few more minutes. Is there anyone else that wants to share anything as you go into this year in terms of how you're planning to navigate this, or what you're looking forward to? Maybe someone is looking forward to revolution and change. You know what I mean? When I think about the American Revolution, I think about, like, some very hard, hard efforts that people took to try to win independence. That it wasn't easy, and there was a lot of like secretive stuff. And when you think about Hong Kong and how before COVID took off, Hong Kong was having a huge resistance to China and trying to keep democracy in place. And then COVID happened and a lot of that just got squelched. And I think about the secretiveness of those societies where like people on the underground in Hong Kong had to pass each other notes or flash each other signals. You know what I mean? And that reminds me of the American Revolution, which you didn't know how someone, where someone sat. You didn't know what their political leanings were. And you were trying to organize and mobilize against the British. And so when I think about stuff like that, it could be that something involving social media and AI has to do with a revolution where people are like, I'm wearing this badge, or I'm doing this, like turning off my Facebook or something radical that says, I'm here and I'm part of the resistance, So that's what I see happening, is something with AI and something with the internet, that people do something. Maybe they start a whole new social media channel that contributes to people's welfare, the underprivileged, and then people get on board with that. I think we're done with the Kardashians, and we're done with worshiping greed, and we're done with like getting tours of Paris Hilton's like new home. And people are just like, what opulent greed and wealth, and they're no longer interested in like glorifying it and worshiping it like a religion. So I think they're going to break out the guillotines for those motherfuckers. But I mean, and it's nothing personal. It's nothing personal. I think they're going to break out the guillotines for a lot of people. And I do believe in hard work, and you can make yourself wealthy. And I'm not necessarily opposed to wealth at all. But I think when you have like $33 billion and you've made your money off of just kind of like celebrating greed, that there's some kind of reckoning afoot. Maybe it's that Ceres energy, but yeah, I just feel like there's this energy of justice afoot that is like angry, and maybe it's angry in kind of a vindictive way.
Absolutely, 100% agree. That's up. That's going to continue to accelerate, and it's also going to continue we're going to be experiencing more of that Hong Kongness here. We're going to be experiencing more censorship and all of that kind of stuff, right? There's going to be a compression. It's going to be coming from both sides, and there's going to come to a head. And there's going to be, and this isn't necessarily in 2024, but it's coming, period, in the coming years, So absolutely everything you said, 100% agree, Leo. So yeah, a French Revolution, American Revolution happened the last time that Pluto was in Aquarius. So all of that, is in the mix. It's in the mix, but it's a 20-year cycle. So it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen, tomorrow, but the change is going to happen tomorrow. The energy is going to be initiated, coming in the beginning of January. I think I don't remember. Maybe it's the 20th. I don't know the exact dates. You guys can look it up, but it's coming in January.
It's also pretty wild. Like the new year just happened and Japan was hit with a large earthquake and tsunami about an hour ago. So that would have been like right on our new year,
Crazy. Yeah. That's another piece that may be accelerating. Natural disasters may probably be accelerated. That's a different aspect that I didn't talk about, but it is up in the astrology. So So yeah, I try to be balanced, but it's not all good news. Exactly, Leo. So yeah. Yes, definitely UFO disclosure is coming out 100%. That's for sure. We're going to be hearing more, seeing more UFO stuff, aliens, that did come out. There was yeah, everything's going to change. Absolutely. Everything's going to change. So, that's another thing we have to learn. We have to learn how to be flexible and adaptable. I just got the message that I have to move. I was not planning to move. I didn't want to move necessarily. I mean, kind of, but not really. But it's okay. Now I gotta go.
Yeah, that's my least favorite thing. That's what happened last year. Was really hard for me. And yeah, the besides it didn't happen with the organization. Like 2 weeks later, I got the 90 days to move in Portland. They have to pay you and they have to give you 90 days if they don't have a reason. But
That's good at least.
yeah, I'd lived there 9 years, and I was, I didn't want to live there forever, but I wasn't. When you have to move and it's not your idea, is like the least fun kind of move. But
Yes.
you don't know all. Like, there's a lot of cool, good things about my new place. So
Okay, good.
yeah.
Good.
On the other side, there'll be some gifts and there'll be some challenges in the way, but that's how everything goes, right?
Exactly. It's always a mixed bag. Nothing's 100% this or that. People's worldview of God will change. This is true. That's also with the transits of Neptune and Saturn being in Pisces. So we're going to see more acceleration of the religious wars and such. So,
well, thanks for putting this together, Leo.
Yeah.
She's muted.
Oh, okay.
I really enjoyed myself. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Well, I guess we'll close on out. Thanks for having me, and Happy New Year, and sending everyone lots of love.
Yeah, it's been amazing, and good luck with everything, and stay in touch with our organization and we'll send people your way.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Right. Thanks.
Preach
Bye,
it.
everyone.
Okay, have a wonderful new year.
You too.
Good night, everyone.